Hello and welcome. You're watching News 9 live with me, Neha Khanna. Over the next 1 hour, we're going to focus on one major headline that has emanated from Manipur in the last 2 days. Well, violence in parts of the northeastern state of Manipur seems to be spiraling out of control. Today, the army held a flag march in the violence-hit areas of the state amid an ongoing protest by tribal groups over a court order on scheduled tribe status. A curfew was imposed in 8 districts of Manipur last night after violence erupted in Imphal, Churachandpur and Kangpokpi. The Manipur government has suspended mobile internet in the state. Mobs torched scores of houses, churches and temples. Incidents of arson and stone pelting have been reported. Several houses were reportedly burned down and some people suffered injuries in the clashes. The army and paramilitary forces were called in to contain the escalating violence. More than 7,500 people have been given shelter in army camps and government offices in many areas following the violence. A venue where Chief Minister N. Biren Singh was scheduled to address a program on Wednesday was vandalized. Additional security forces were rushed to the location from other parts of the state to control the situation. Union Home Minister Amit Shah today spoke with the Manipur Chief Minister to discuss the ongoing violence. The centre has dispatched rapid action force teams to the violence-hit areas of the state. How did it all begin? On Wednesday, the All Tribal Student Union Manipur called a tribal solidarity march in the Torbung area of Churachandpur district to protest against the non-tribal Meiteis community's demand for a scheduled tribe status. Thousands participated in the rally when violence broke out between tribals and non-tribals. Now, the Meitei community makes up 53% of Manipur's population and primarily inhabit the Manipur Valley. The tribals constitute 40% of the state population. The Meiteis claim that they are facing difficulty in view of large-scale illegal immigration by Myanmaris and Bangladeshis. As per the existing law, the Meiteis are not allowed to settle in the hill areas of Manipur. Leaders of the Kuki community have also accused the state government of targeting legitimate residents of Manipur by carrying out evictions in villages, which the administration says have sprung up on encroached reserved forest land. Amid the violent protests, Mizoram Chief Minister Zoramthanga wrote to his Manipur counterpart, appealing for peace. In the letter, he says, and I quote, "As the Chief Minister of Mizoram, a lifelong neighbor that has much in common with Manipur in terms of history and culture, I'm deeply pained by the violence that has flared up in parts of your state and the underlying tension between the Meitei community and the tribals there." Boxing legend MC Mary Kom too has appealed for peace in the state. She took to Twitter to say, "My state Manipur is burning. Kindly help," tagging the Prime Minister, the Home Minister and the Defence Minister. She said, "The situation in Manipur makes me unhappy. Earlier, I could not even imagine this kind of violence. Since last night, it has become more frightening. I asked the state and central governments to take steps to maintain peace and security." So what exactly led to this violence? Firstly, Chief Minister Biren Singh's move to protect the forest has been facing resistance from illegal immigrants and drug cartels. Secondly, the violence is linked to the Manipur High Court's recent direction to the state government asking it to consider the inclusion of Meiteis in the scheduled tribes list. That has led to an outburst from the tribal community. Then there is the issue of the Zo people. Parts of Manipur, specifically the Churachandpur district, dominated by the Kuki Zomi communities, have been burning following an eviction drive to clear protected areas, wildlife sanctuaries and wetlands of illegal settlers. The drive by the Biren Singh-led BJP government is seen as targeting the Kuki Zomi communities akin to the Mizos of Mizoram. In fact, they are together referred to as Zo people. A group called the Mizo Zirlai Paul has condemned the Manipur government's actions against the ethnic Zo people, which it says were attempts to evict them so that the tribal lands can be declared reserved forest, protected forest, wildlife sanctuaries and wetlands. The MZP also took exception to the Manipur government demanding an inner line permit or ILP from the people of Mizoram entering Manipur, reminding the Manipur Chief Minister that Mizoram never demands an ILP from Manipuri people. It said forcing the Zo people to acquire an ILP could lead to a discord between the Manipur and Mizoram governments. Asking the Manipur government to stop victimizing the Zo people, the MZP has warned that it would not be responsible if anything happened to the Manipuri people in Mizoram. The Manipur government's drive is reportedly linked to a perception that a large section of the Kuki Zomi people have entered the country illegally from Myanmar. Earlier, Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh had said that Myanmar immigrants were responsible for deforestation, poppy cultivation and drug menace in the state. The question now is just how will Chief Minister N. Biren Singh, who's already embattled thanks to growing rebellion against his leadership within his party ranks, douse the flames in Manipur?
Brother and a sister in the state of Manipur, during the last around 24 hours, some incident of clashes, vandalisms and arson have been reported in Imphal, Shoshanpur, Bishnupur, Kangpokpi and More, etc. Precious lives have been lost, besides damage of property of residents, which is very, very unfortunate. These accidents are a result of prevailing misunderstanding between two sections of our society. The state government is seized of the developments and taking all steps to control the law and order situation. Additional central paramilitary forces have been requisitioned for deployment in sensitive areas. We are committed to protect the life and property of our peoples.
I also would like to appeal all the communities of the Manipur to remain peacefully and try to help the government, help the society to bring the normalcy and to live harmonically and respecting each other. So that will be the best solution. And crisis like violence, we cannot solve any issue, and it will be damage, it will be hurt to the humanity. And since the settlement here in Manipur, all are human beings, and we love the nature. So we'll all together put the effort to bring the Manipur normalcy, and I appeal to all my brothers and sisters who are in Manipur to appeal themselves, to appeal to all the concerned, not to involve any kind of violence and think it as our same ethnic community, same ancestral, the evolutions were there. So we should remain silent.
अभी ये सिचुएशन अभी बहुत बुरा हाल हो रहा है और मैं बहुत अच्छा फील नहीं कर रही हूँ एक्चुअली बहुत बुरा फील कर रही हूँ कि अभी ये वायलेंस अचानक मैं सोच भी नहीं पाया ऐसे अचानक कैसे हो रहा है करके और ये कल रात से लेके बहुत भयंकर मतलब वो ज्यादा हो रहा है और मुझे चाहती हूँ कि हो सकता है तो जल्दी से जल्दी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कुछ करे कि मणिपुर में ये दोबारा मतलब ये पीस को ये सिचुएशन को खत्म होने के लिए ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट कर रही हूँ.
All right, why is Manipur burning and what can be done to address this situation? Let's try and find some of those answers. I'm joined on the show by Deepak Diwan, senior journalist, who's here with me in the studio. Also with us is Subir Bhomik, a senior journalist and author who understands the Northeast very well, and Yashovardhan Azad, former special director of the Intelligence Bureau. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on the show. Subir Bhomik, if I could start with you. As I said at the start of my show, there are many layers to this entire issue. To even call it complex would perhaps be an understatement. Most people believe the immediate trigger for the violence that we're currently witnessing in Manipur was the Tribal Solidarity March that was carried out in protest against the demand of the non-tribal Meiteis community for a scheduled tribe status. Now, for those who are outside of the northeast of this country and who do not quite understand why things have come to this, I request you to put this entire issue into perspective. Why is Manipur on the boil?
Manipur is on the boil for very simple reason that the three major ethnic communities there, the Meiteis, who are Hindus, the Nagas, who are Christians, and the Kukis, who are also Christians, but ethnically very different. Now they have different aspirations, they have different conflicting homeland demands, and which often clash with each other. Let me take you further back to the 1990s when the conflicting homeland demands of the Nagas and the Kukis provoked a conflict which led to several hundred deaths, and when the militant groups of both sides were at loggerheads with each other. Then came the issue of the extension of the Naga ceasefire. As it was extended to Manipur, Manipur went up in flames because the Meiteis thought that this is the precursor to the vivisection or the division of Manipur and possible integration of the Naga-dominated areas with the state of Nagaland. This demand that the NSCN has been making, Greater Nagaland. So now there are two major issues which have provoked this conflict. One, of course, is the enforcement of the Forest Act, by which the government has been trying to remove what they say are squatters, encroachers, tribals who have encroached on land, and according to the government, who are involved in poppy cultivation. The Kukis, who are the people in that area where this has happened, think that they have a right to this forest, they have lived there for centuries, and therefore there is no reason why the government should suddenly ask them to get out of there because they don't have any option. Now here there is a major issue, of land use policy. If you don't offer farmers a gainful occupation, gainful crops, by which they make a decent income, they have a tendency to turn to poppy because this state is very close to Myanmar's Golden Triangle, which is one of the two major narcotic production zones of the world. So therefore, you have to understand that you offer something good to the tribal farmers and they can make a decent income. You don't do that and then say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, doesn't really work out. The second issue is this decision of the court, and the demand of the Meiteis to be treated as scheduled tribes, which the Nagas and the Kukis think is unfair because they have been the scheduled tribes. The Meiteis have not been, and the Meiteis are 53% of the population. The Meiteis passionately want this to happen for the simple reason they think they have missed out on some of the benefits that accrues from being a scheduled tribe, and therefore they should be declared as one. This is a classic case of a nationality willing to be, termed as tribe. It doesn't really happen. In the anthropological process, a tribe becomes a nationality, not the other way around. But here, this is the demand because there are benefits to be had. The Nagas and the Kukis think, if that happens, then the advantage they had in education or employment or certain other spheres is all gone. So here is a state with three distinct important population groups which have very different perceptions of their own homeland, of their own aspirations, which often is in conflict with each other. And therefore, if the government is seen as siding with a particular community, it doesn't really work. The government needs to be very careful, as I said in the previous show with Karthik, that you need to intelligently manage the identity issues rather than wish them away. We are not America. Our states are organized on linguistic lines. And therefore, identity is a fact of life. And therefore, you can't say, oh, we all need to be Indian tomorrow. Yes, of course, we are Indians, we are proud Indians. But we are also Bengalis, Manipuris, Meiteis, whatever, all our identity. India is a land which thrives on the multiplicity of identity. You can't wish it away. So you need an intelligent management of identity here. and of the issues that provoke, rather than play into these identity conflicts for vote bank politics. That's not on. So what politicians usually do, short-term thinking, is that they play into these issues and they try to make benefit. And most importantly here is the issue of armed groups. All these three groups, three major population groups or ethnic groups, they have armed groups working among them. And therefore, these people are armed, they're trained, and this is a combustible sort of proposition. Therefore, Delhi and Imphal, both the state government and the central government, will have to extremely cautiously handle this whole issue of Manipur. Manipur is crucial for India's Look East policy, and for different other reasons, Manipur should get top priority attention at the moment. And these issues, there are no shortcuts here. You have to have dialogue between the different communities, different civil society groups representing them, and of course, the armed groups as well. You should have them on the table. Comprehensive dialogue, rather than play one against another. That does not really work. That only adds to the problems in the long run. So here, you need a comprehensive settlement, you need a comprehensive dialogue, and you need everybody on the table rather than out in the jungles brandishing their guns and weapons. And deploying the army, deploying the Assam Rifles, yes, good short-term solution. The Indian Army is a professional army. But at the end of the day, the solution to all these crises is political. And unless the political issues are addressed appropriately with an intent to solve the problem, the Naga issue, 25 years negotiations going on. We are a very proud democracy. But if you can't solve a problem of a particular ethnic group, after 25 years of negotiations, either we don't know how to negotiate or we really don't know what the issues are. So that's very, very important that Delhi actually appreciates the issues on ground, appreciates the dynamics of the situation. You don't go to experts who say, "मैं उधर में 10 साल पहले था." 10 साल में बहुत कुछ बदल चुका है.
Right.
So what? Yeah, sorry.
No worries, sir. You have put this entire into perspective for us. Thank you so much for that detailed analysis of exactly what is going wrong on the ground in the state of Manipur. This is a combustible situation, as you put it, and the state government and the centre need to take it very seriously, address the old festering wounds. As you said, the deployment of the army and the paramilitary forces may be a temporary solution to contain the violence, but the wounds that have been festering for a quarter of a century need to be addressed. Let me now go across to Deepak Diwan, who's here with me in the studio. Mr. Diwan, you heard Mr. Bhaumik. He says that these are identity issues. Definitely. The governments need to show sensitivity. What we need is a comprehensive dialogue. You cannot pit one community against another. According to him, this boils down to two primary issues. One is the Forest Act enforcement, which has angered the Kukis in particular. On the other hand, it's primarily the Nagas and the Kukis on the one hand and the Meiteis on the other. The tribals versus the non-tribals, if you will. This is at the end of the day about rights, about land, about jobs, about employment. How do you address an issue as complex as this?
See, I think the foremost thing is the Manipur government has to be more sensitive towards the tribals. See, the tribals of Manipur, they have been denied 6th schedule. 6th schedule gives you the right to develop your own area, your financial like powers and all that, which Manipur is the only state in the country which has denied 6th schedule to the tribals. No other state in the country is there where the tribals are denied 6th schedule. Even the neighboring states like Mizoram, they have given 6th schedule to Chakmas and other minorities there. In Tripura you have 6th schedule, Meghalaya you have 6th schedule, you have 6th schedule in Assam, you have 6th schedule in other states. So why not Manipur? See, the thing is, I remember when Mr. Advani was the Deputy Prime Minister and he was also holding the home portfolio. That was I don't remember the exact year, but it
between
was
1998 and 2004.
to 2004, sorry. See, the Home Ministry had taken it up very seriously with Manipur government, asking them to pass resolution in the assembly giving 6th schedule to the tribals in the state. You know what they did, Manipur government, and they were not willing to do it. After certain reminders were sent to Manipur government, they passed a resolution that we approve granting of 6th schedule to the tribals in the state with some local adjustments.
Sir, for the benefit of our viewers, if you could decode the 6th schedule and what it entails, why it's so important.
The 6th schedule gives you powers, financial powers, to develop your own area with your own priorities. Like today, all the hill areas where the 6th schedule is not there, they have to depend on the state cabinet for finance as well as development projects. So, tribals of Manipur feel that they are being neglected, because if they were given 6th schedule, they would have developed the area themselves. So, they have been a great demand for that. On top of that, the things like the move to grant Meiteis ST status has further added fuel to the fire. And one more thing, I tell you why this incident has happened yesterday. Yesterday it happened to be a day of their march, Solidarity March, which you mentioned. But also at the same time, yesterday was a day when the central team had gone to Imphal to carry on the talks with the Kuki militants. KNO, UPF, these are the two umbrella organizations of 25 Kuki groups, which signed suspension of operation way back in 2008 with the security forces. So, with them we have a tripartite talks going on. Yesterday was the first round of the talks in Imphal. I mean, it's a continuous dialogue. Mr. A.K. Mishra, who is the advisor to the Home Ministry for Northeast and also the interlocutor to Kukis as well as Nagas, he is in Imphal. In fact, today also he is in Imphal. Today was supposed to be second round, which did not happen because of the situation there. So, the tribals feel they are neglected, deprived of their rights. That's why, see, even if you, when you say that there are 53% Meiteis, but if you look at the assembly, Meiteis have 40 seats, tribals including Nagas or Kukis, they have only 20 seats. So, they don't have even political voice, and that's why this anger has spread all over, and this is going, the situation is really out of their hands. Even the flag march did not work. Today, the Manipur government has ordered shoot at sight order also today.
Correct.
So that shows that the situation is not under control.
It is not under control at all, and in fact my colleague Pankaj has just informed me that the government of Manipur has issued shoot at sight orders in extreme cases. It is undoubtedly a highly volatile situation. Let me bring in Yashovardhan Azad, a former senior cop who is also with us in this situation. Yashovardhan Azad, how do you see the situation that's unfolding in Manipur? As we've already discussed in the course of the discussion so far, this is a very complex issue that we are talking about. 25 years of negotiations, or shall we say failed talks, old, deep, festering wounds that haven't been addressed. There are accusations against the Chief Minister of pitting one community against another rather than bringing them together. Mr. Diwan here says the tribals have felt for the longest time, the Kukis and the Nagas, that they have been neglected by the state government, and now you have the issue of the Meiteis being granted ST status, something that is not acceptable to the tribals. Very quickly, if I could mention for the benefit of the viewers, the Meitei community makes up 53% of Manipur's population, and the tribals, that's the Nagas and the Kukis, constitute 40% of the state population. This is about land, this is about education, this is about employment. And then add to the mix issues such as poppy cultivation or narcotics and the presence of various armed groups. Yashovardhan Azad, it's all very well for the government of Manipur to today issue shoot-at-sight orders to deploy the army and the paramilitary forces, but this is only a temporary solution, you would agree.
You're absolutely right. And as you have described earlier, this festering wound has been continuing for a very, very long time. I think Mr. Bhoni gave an excellent analysis of the developing situation for the last 2 or 3 decades. And if you're employing the army or the paramilitary forces from time to time, definitely there'll be only temporary cures. Mind you, we just now talked about the Kuki talks which are going to take place with A.K. Mishra, my erstwhile colleague, and could not be done prevented because of this violence which has taken place. Would remind you of the Naga Peace Accord, which we signed in 2015 with the NSCN. And yet, there are so many complications which have arisen. There are so many groups which has come up and decried the accord. So what I'm saying is the entire thing is in a churn. Now, what we are talking about, the forest eviction drive, is a very serious matter. In fact, you see, it's symptomatic of also the issues confronting the country. The entire country is on the boil because of the way the scheduled tribe communities are claiming their forest rights and claiming that the government is not allowing them to do as they would like to do with the forest, which is actually theirs. In the case of Manipur, it is definitely more complicated because over the years, yes, because of the bordering Myanmar, there have been problems of smuggling, of poppy cultivation, of immigrants, and this has built up to a volatile situation out there. Secondly, the charges which people level, and to some extent that the government has been sort of turning its attention away from the tribal communities, has also led this to a huge problem. You know, the Hill Areas Development Program in various places, they've always sought autonomy. And in this case, as rightly pointed out by both the speakers, that not having the autonomy and having to beg from the cabinet all the time for the development of these areas is a very, very serious issue. So I think the only way this can be done, and complicating this is also the demands of the Kukis, the tribal communities, for which we are having talks and talks and talks without any resolution. But this is very closely linked with the second aspect which you've been talking about, and it does seem a little improper for the Meiteis to be accorded the SC status. It may be because of the lure for jobs, it may be because of other advantages they think they have missed. But you see, this is like in the country that the Jats are seeking, reservations. There are so many communities which have been doing very well, which have been performing well and have been in positions of power, and they have been claiming reservation. The problem is that the cake is so small that is very, very difficult to sort of distribute it between the various communities. I would say at this time, it is very essential that the Look East policy has to be more fine-tuned, has to be made more and more intensive. And therefore, this kind of just, deployment of a few forces here and there, a few talks and a few speeches here and there, those days are over. And it requires very, very serious deliberation on ground. And once this is over, I think it is very important that, we had so many the ministries, Northeast Area Council, and so many other things. It's time to coalesce them into one. It's time for somebody to sit there in the Northeast capitals and find a solution to Manipur, because Manipur is a highly sensitive state, and we can't afford these things to, carry on in the same
And we
fashion.
cannot have politics over such a sensitive issue, because these are people's lives we are talking about, people's livelihoods that we are talking about, their identity that we are talking about. And it doesn't help that the Chief Minister of Manipur, N. Biren Singh, has been accused of pitting one community against another. The tribals, in fact, feel that he has neglected them for the long time. The Kukis have been unhappy with the Chief Minister for a very long time. So a lot needs to be done by both the state and the central governments to address these issues and, put a healing touch on these old festering wounds rather than just deploy the army and the paramilitary forces, though clearly the spiraling situation at the moment does seem to call for it or demand it. Gentlemen, stay on with me. I'll come back to you and continue this conversation. But before that, let's play out for our viewers one more time some of the reactions that have been coming in, important statements that have been made on the ongoing situation in Manipur. Listen in.
Brother and sister in the state of Manipur, during the last around 24 hours, some incident of clashes, vandalisms and arson have been reported in Imphal, Shoshanpur, Bishnupur, Kangpokpi and More, etc. Precious lives have been lost, besides damage of property of residents, which is very, very unfortunate. These accidents are a result of prevailing misunderstanding between two sections of our society. The state government is seized of the developments and taking all steps to control the law and order situation. Additional central paramilitary forces have been requisitioned for deployment in sensitive areas. We are committed to protect the life and property of our peoples.
I also would like to appeal all the communities of the Manipur to remain peacefully and try to help the government, help the society to bring the normalcy and to live harmonically and respecting each other. So that will be the best solution. And crisis like violence, we cannot solve any issue, and it will be damage, it will be hurt to the humanity. And since the settlement here in Manipur, all are human beings, and we love the nature. So we'll all together put the effort to bring the Manipur normalcy, and I appeal to all my brothers and sisters who are in Manipur to appeal themselves, to appeal to all the concerned, not to involve any kind of violence and think it as our same ethnic community, same ancestral, the evolutions were there. So we should remain silent.
अभी ये सिचुएशन अभी बहुत बुरा हाल हो रहा है और मैं बहुत अच्छा फील नहीं कर रही हूँ एक्चुअली बहुत बुरा फील कर रही हूँ कि अभी ये वायलेंस अचानक मैं सोच भी नहीं पाया ऐसे अचानक कैसे हो रहा है करके और ये कल रात से लेके बहुत भयंकर मतलब वो ज्यादा हो रहा है और मुझे चाहती हूँ कि हो सकता है तो जल्दी से जल्दी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कुछ करे कि मणिपुर में ये दोबारा मतलब ये पीस को ये सिचुएशन को खत्म होने के लिए ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट कर रही हूँ.
All right, so clearly there's a lot of concern across India over the ongoing situation in Manipur, and in the latest development, we have the government, state government notification which clearly states that shoot at sight orders have been issued. In extreme cases, if somebody indulges in extreme violence, then they could be shot at sight. Those are the orders that have been given to the police, the army, the paramilitary forces that find themselves in a very volatile situation right now because the violence has been escalating steadily since yesterday. That is the latest order that has come in from the government of Manipur. All right, let's now return to our discussion with our panel of experts. Before I go back to Subir Bhaumik, for the benefit of our viewers, let's just recap what seems to lie at the heart of this ongoing dispute and violence. As we mentioned earlier, the Meiteis community make up 53% of the population in Manipur. The tribals, on the other hand, that is the Nagas and the Kukis, constitute 40% of the population. But as Mr. Diwan tells me, it is the Meiteis that seem to be in a predominant position, not just in terms of their population numbers in the state, but also in terms of their wide representation in the state assembly. And some of the recent moves by the Biren Singh government have angered the tribals, with them accusing the Chief Minister of neglecting them and pitting one community against another. Let me go back to Subir Bhaumik at this point. Mr. Bhaumik, now the Meiteis, who have been demanding that they be included in the scheduled tribe status, and this is a recommendation that has also been made by the High Court, essentially make the argument that they are not demanding ST status just for reservations in jobs, educational institutions and tax relief. They say this is more to protect their ancestral land, culture and identity, which they believe is being threatened by illegal migration from Myanmar, Bangladesh and outsiders from the state. On the other hand, the tribals, they say they are of course opposing any such move, and they say that they're going to be further marginalized if the ST status is granted to the Meiteis, because there is a perception in Manipur among the hill tribes that the Meiteis already wield much more economic and political power in Manipur compared to them, despite the hill tribes accounting for 9/10 of the state's geographical area. So as much as this is about cultural identity, isn't it also about control over resources, over who gets how big a share of the pie?
It's all about resources, actually. You're right that, identity issues are important, but it's all about resources. The Meiteis want scheduled tribe status, as do some of the important communities we thought were within the ambit of Assamese nationality. They also want scheduled tribe status. Why? They think if they don't get scheduled tribe status, they don't get the kind of central funding and other allocations that neighboring tribal states like Nagaland and Mizoram have. On the other hand, the tribals think that if they don't get autonomy under 6th schedule, as Deepak rightly pointed out, they don't get the kind of access to resources that they think is theirs by right. They think they will have to depend too much on a distant state government, which is less than receptive to their aspirations. It's all about resources, and it's all about the lack of development and the way the issues have been addressed so far. So here there is another very important issue I want to bring up. I and Deepak and Azad Saab has all actually outlined the issues in Manipur. I want to bring in the external angle. Do you realize Myanmar is on a fierce boiling stage where it is descending into a dangerous civil war situation, and the area neighboring Manipur, Sagaing and Rakhine State, they are one of the worst conflict zones where the Burmese army is on the retreat, they are in trouble, and the insurgents are having an upper hand. So what I have in mind is that with Myanmar descending into chaos, if these unresolved issues in Manipur were to boil over in the way they are, you will have an arc of instability. You will have an arc of instability stretching into Northeast India from Myanmar, with serious complications and serious implications for the future security and stability of the Indian state. So it's time that not only the government of India, we expect them to take this Manipur situation seriously and not leave it just to the whims and fancies of local politicians. There is a strong movement for removal of the chief minister. That's an internal issue of the BJP, a spillover of the fact the way BJP aggregated themselves by taking people from Congress. A lot of complications of party politics are getting enmeshed with ethnic politics, and the two can never be separated. There's a very strong demand for the change of leadership, but very importantly, the government of India here has to address three issues. They have to address the issue in Manipur in specific. They have to address the overall northeastern situation, and they have to address the Myanmar issue. Do you realize something? We are leaving it to everybody else. We call ourselves a regional power. We say that, we have to be taken seriously. We want a permanent seat in the UN Security Council. And when it comes to our neighboring country, Myanmar, we say, oh, wait and watch. We leave it to the ASEAN 5-point consensus. We leave it to the other big powers. What is this? India has to take a serious proactive role in sorting out the stalemate, the sorting out the imbroglio in Myanmar, failing which this will boil over and hit our own northeastern region. So if we talk about playing a peacemaker role in Ukraine, far off Ukraine, why not Myanmar? This is the problem with the Indian state, beginning with Jawaharlal Nehru. You know, we're talking of non-aligned movement, we're talking of the world politics, and you don't know how to handle your neighborhood. I was sitting with a very venerable, very respected Vietnamese Buddhist scholar, monk, you know, who's known as Dr. Lam, but his name is Thach Huyen Du. And he says he's very respected across the Buddhist world. And he says he is willing to join hands with the Indian government to take a peace mission to Myanmar so that the various stakeholders in the conflict there, including the army, can be made to sit on the table, which the ASEAN so far has failed to do, which the big powers have failed to do with all their resolutions in the Security Council, and which China perhaps does not want to do because they have complete grip on the Myanmar military junta, and China is into extractive politics. They want to get the benefit, Myanmar minerals and all that. So India, land of Gandhi, proudly we say that, we say we are a regional power, and when it comes to Myanmar, we practice strategic inaction, little realizing that unless Myanmar stabilizes, there can be no look east or act east through northeast. It will be by sea, but by land, if Myanmar is on the boil, if Manipur is on the boil, look east will remain a damn cliche and nothing more than that. So I make myself very clear. These are interrelated issues. Why can't you take a peace mission to Myanmar with this Buddhist monk who actually has a temple in Bodh Gaya, with Zoram Thanga, the chief minister of Mizoram, who knows all the major actors in the drama in Myanmar because he has been an insurgent leader who has lived there. You can take R.K. Ranjan Singh from Manipur, who is the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. You can take one or two former ambassadors, but not those, you know, who have been there in 1990 and who still think they're experts. They're not, yeah? But you can take somebody, you know, like Vikram Misri, who is the Deputy National Security Advisor, who was the Myanmar ambassador to Myanmar when I was there. I worked in Myanmar 3 years. What I'm trying to say is, try to see the external linkages as well. You know, because if you don't see them clearly, you will find actors who will fish in troubled waters in Manipur. You have this problem in Manipur, you will find the Chinese sending intelligence officers into Myanmar, where they're well entrenched, to fish in troubled waters in Manipur. Don't forget that the PLA of Manipur, as well as the Naga rebels and the Mizo rebels, were all trained in China, in Yunnan province, in the 1960s. And 1970s, when Namai Rakpan Visweswar Singh, Kunja Bihari Singh, Chiram Ranjit Singh, and all these big ojas of the PLA underground movement went to China for training. Don't forget that we have a problem with China, and one of the easy cards that the Chinese could play is Northeast. They will fish in troubled waters. So you look at, and they will also play it in Myanmar. So Myanmar, Manipur, Northeast, we need a comprehensive, holistic policy outlook to handle Northeast and its neighborhood, failing which we are asking for deep trouble. Mark my words, you will have deep, deep trouble resurfacing in this whole region.
Well, you've painted a very grim and frightening picture, but you have hit the nail on the head, Mr. Bhomik. You have given us a complete picture of exactly what is going wrong in Manipur and where these fault lines really emanate from. We, as much as we look at what's happening in Manipur and the northeast of India, we need to look at our neighboring Myanmar. You're quite right, sir, in talking about those external linkages that cannot be ignored, because if India does that, it will do so at its own peril. Let me take this to Yashovardhan Azad. Yashovardhan Azad, Mr. Bhaumik making an excellent point. And for the benefit of our viewers, I just want to point out a couple of facts which essentially illustrate why the point that he is making about Myanmar is so critical. The Mizo Zirlai Paul, this organization has taken exception to the decision of the government of Manipur, which is demanding an inner line permit from the people of Mizoram entering Manipur. And we'll talk about the Mizoram-Manipur dimension in just a moment. The Manipur government says it has taken this decision because a large section of the Kuki Zomi people have entered the country illegally from Myanmar. The Chief Minister N. Biren Singh is on record as having saying that Myanmar immigrants are responsible for deforestation, poppy cultivation and drug menace in the state of Manipur. Mr. Bhaumik says, let's not forget our neighboring Myanmar is also on the boil and India has a stake there. If we are not going to do something about the unending violence there, we are going to end up dealing with an arch of chaos that will be very hard for India to control. He says, why not take a peace mission to Myanmar? Let's address that issue seriously instead of looking the other way. Do you believe that what is happening today in Manipur has a very strong link to the situation in Myanmar, and that India, you know, as much as we talk about our Look East policy, has ignored that country for far too long, and we are now doing so at our own peril?
Mr. Bhaumik is absolutely right when he talks about the border situation, conflagrating into something really big. As I pointed out earlier, that the illegal immigrants from Myanmar, and in fact in March itself, I think CM had declared there were 393 illegal immigrants from Myanmar who had been caught. But before that, our experience also has taught us that across the border where our militants have found an area to escape, and where we had even gone inside to flush out some of the militants. But the border of Myanmar is very, very sensitive from the point of view of, smuggling, interchange of so many goods, and interchange of men, guns, weapons, etc. But the most important point, which I totally agree with him, is that definitely we should be more proactive when it comes to Myanmar. And for far too long, we have been just waiting and watching. I mean, this kind of stifling of democracy which has been done over there, and the fights which are going on, the Rohingya refugees which have been spilling over the borders into Bangladesh, into our territory, it does have cause a reason, gives us a very solid reason to at least try and make a pitch for telling us that our borders are being impacted. And I totally agree that let us retire those 20-year-old experts and get people who are current, people who are there in the Northeast, who are familiar with the game. And I think that will certainly make a difference. And even if it doesn't, at least India's cautionary note should come to mind to these Myanmar rulers. I would also, say that some of the things we can't leave just festering. We have to look into, again, the Naga Accord, which is almost dead again. It was signed in 2015. And in the framework agreement itself, the way it has been worded, it looks that it suits both sides. So the issue of, whether the constitution or the flag or all these things have been left in the way. Yes, of course, we don't agree with it, but we have to hammer out some solution or the other. And in fact, the withdrawal of the state from these talks with the Kuki on suspension of operation, that also has to be reviewed. And I hope that we get back on the table as soon as possible.
All right, you're saying the Naga Accord, which is dead in the water, also needs to be resurrected. Let's, for a moment, go back to the role of Chief Minister N. Biren Singh. As I mentioned at the start of the show, he's already embattled because there seems to be growing rebellion against him within the Manipur rank of the BJP, with one MLA after another quitting government posts in protest. There are, of course, rumblings that the Chief Minister should be replaced. Many of these disgruntled MLAs in recent days have come to Delhi to talk to the central leadership and to get them to address this leadership crisis that seems to currently exist in Manipur. And if there is indeed a leadership crisis, it could not have come at a worse time, given that Manipur is burning right now. We'll discuss the role of the Chief Minister and all of this in greater detail in just a moment. But before that, let's play out for our viewers this statement that was issued by the Chief Minister on the ongoing violence in his state.
Brother and sister in the state of Manipur, during the last around 24 hours, some incident of clashes, vandalisms and arson have been reported in Imphal, Shoshanpur, Bishnupur, Kangpokpi and More, etc. Precious lives have been lost, besides damage of property of residents, which is very, very unfortunate. These accidents are a result of prevailing misunderstanding between two sections of our society. The state government is seized of the developments and taking all steps to control the law and order situation. Additional central paramilitary forces have been requisitioned for deployment in sensitive areas. We are committed to protect the life and the property of our peoples.
Okay, the Chief Minister there saying we are committed to protecting life and property in the state of Manipur. We appeal to all sides to restore calm and peace, and strict action will be taken against the perpetrators of this violence. Let me go across to Mr. Diwan at this point. Mr. Diwan, you know, there are many, including yourself and Mr. Bhaumik on the panel, who seem to think the Chief Minister has messed up. There has been a lot of tension brewing between him and the tribals for a long time now. And even at a time when he faces rebellion in his own ranks, with many even demanding the central leadership, demanding that the central leadership replace him as Chief Minister, now you have a situation where Manipur is on the boil. So like I said, this rebellion the Chief Minister is facing couldn't have come at a worse time. But how do you see his role in all of this?
Well, I think, see, the thing is, this tribal versus Meiteis is nothing new. It has been on for many years. Many occasions, similar situation had come earlier also. But Biren, you know, I think he should go to the people and explain to the people, even if Meiteis are given ST status, it will be on the line of what has been given to the tribes in Assam. See, we have hill tribes in Assam, we have plain tribes in Assam, and the plain tribes do not infringe on the rights of the tribes living in the hills. The same may apply here. If he comes out with this kind of statement, it will diffuse the situation and it will be a win-win situation. But you know, the problem is this requires a political will to do it. Will he do it? That is the question.
Does he have the political will to address these growing concerns that are being expressed by the tribals in the state of Manipur? Let me go back to Mr. Bhaumik at this point. Mr. Bhaumik, Mr. Diwan says that, you know, the Meiteis are in many ways the more powerful or influential community in the state of Manipur, both financially and in terms of the political clout they enjoy. Yes, they constitute 53% of the state population, but they also have big numbers and a very sizable presence in the state assembly. Many of these Meitei leaders are part of the government led by N. Biren Singh in Manipur, and perhaps that has led to the perception that the Chief Minister has been somewhat biased in his dealings with the Meiteis vis-a-vis the tribals. The tribals for long now have accused the Chief Minister of neglecting their interests. Do you believe that the Chief Minister has been part of the problem rather than the solution?
Well, I won't actually think that one or two leader is responsible. Biren actually, when he took over as chief minister, made a conscious attempt to reach out to the Nagas particularly. But where I think he has gone wrong is in his sense of priorities. Too many things, too many hot stuff. It's like subjecting you over a meal to three different types of chilies, each of which can knock you out in 5 seconds. You know the umorok, the famous chili of Manipur, and then you get the boot jolokia from Assam. Now, what is good enough to knock you out? You are putting three on the table and make me eat three of them. What do you expect? I can't stand anymore. I will be knocked out. So Viren actually has taken too much on his plate, and the perception is among the tribals that he has been less than fair to them. This is all a game of perception. There is also a strong movement in the party to remove him as chief minister. There are some leaders who have been projected as alternatives. The former super cop, Mr. Radhe Sham, is one of them. Point here is, these three, four things are all, getting enmeshed into a very dangerous combustible mix. In party, in factional politics with BJP, the ethnic sort of strife-driven politics, the politics over resources, and finally, the border situation, the insurgent factor. So here, Biren Singh, is the chief minister. Well, I won't think he's better or worse than any of the chief ministers Manipur has seen in the past. I have known chief ministers since the days of Rishan Keshing was a Naga chief minister of Manipur. I filed a story against him, I remember, and he sued me for defamation, but then he lost his chief ministership because whatever I wrote that his linkages with the insurgents were actually proved to be correct. And the governor actually sent a report to that effect. So he has replaced. So I go back on this Manipur turf a long time in the 1980s, as I told you, and I have known at least 5 or 6 chief ministers very closely. Viren, I mean, he is like any other politician, a survivor and somebody who likes to live for the day. So he has an immediate problem. He wants to tackle it. He is not a visionary. He's not a visionary like any other leader in the Northeast at the moment. Manik Shah in my state, well, I don't really know, but before him, Biplab Dev, another BJP chief minister in Tripura, certainly not a visionary. They all do firefighting. They all live by the day. They try to take advantage of some immediate issues. They are tactical rather than strategic. And therefore, Viren is neither worse nor better than any of these other BJP chief ministers, many of whom actually come from a Congress background. But the point is, here is too important an issue to be just left to a chief minister. That's the point I've been making since I've been speaking on TV9 from, this afternoon, is that too much is at stake. So Delhi has to get involved. Delhi can't leave everything to, N. Biren Singh. And one thing, the way this issue boiled over and exploded into violence, clearly, Mr. Azad, being a very senior intelligence officer, will agree with me, people have been caught napping. There was obviously a gap of intelligence, or at least very often there are intelligence reports which the politicians don't take seriously. So without knowing the details, I can't say, but definitely the government has been caught napping by the scale and the intensity of violence, and suddenly they have to now bring in the army, they have to issue suit and cite. Pardon?
Sorry, sir. Go ahead. Make your point.
Yeah. No, I thought you saw some brilliance in what I'm saying. I feel elated, but I really don't know. What I'm trying to say here is very simple. Viren, to level blame on one chief minister, I don't think is right. Most of these leaders are very average quality leaders. They are not visionaries. Be it Mamata Banerjee in Bengal, Himanta Biswa Sarma in Assam, Viren Singh in, Manipur, Biplab Dev, Manik Shah is a new chief minister, Biplab Dev in Tripura. Well, I don't see any of them to be visionaries who have a definite roadmap for taking their state forward. The least they can do is to come up with a proper land use policy which will guarantee farmers of all communities, be it the Meiteis in the plains, because everybody needs food. Meiteis, Nagas and Kukis, everybody needs food. Everybody wants prosperity. These are common human demands. They should be addressing them rather than play on ethnic fault lines for their limited political interests. So The fact of the matter is that we need a land use policy, we need appropriate income for the farmers, we need to sort out the autonomy issue. Deepak is absolutely right. If Tripura can give sixth schedule to 20%, 30% of the population, I mean, Tripura's tribal population is 30%. They have an autonomy, sixth schedule autonomy over 70% of the land area. Why not the Kukis and the Nagas? They can have their own autonomous council. And autonomy is not a bad thing. Autonomy guarantees you certain access to resources, which is otherwise not available. And autonomy also gives you a sense of belonging and perception. So if you have autonomy within Manipur, you feel yourself a Manipuri. Mary Kom is a Kuki by tribe, by ethnicity. But she is also a Manipuri because she represents Manipur and puts on the Manipur blazer. And then finally she is an Indian because she puts on the crest of India and boxes her way to glory and gets India medal. The point I'm trying to make here is very simple. Intelligent management of identity rather than fishing in troubled waters and exploiting identity to gain cheap political benefits, which ultimately creates chaos. So be strategic rather than tactical, take a long-term view and come up with a roadmap for the actual development of Manipur. You know what? You have a few bridges coming up and you feel very good about it. But unless you have local crops or local products to be transported over this bridge, who benefits from these bridges? The Burmese drug smugglers. They are easily able to send their products into Manipur and into the rest of India through Manipur. Manipur, don't forget, is a gateway for the inflow of Burmese heroin and amphetamine drugs. Very dangerous thing. So, but the point is, in Delhi, many people think Burma is Varmaji and they don't really understand the importance of all these issues that we have tried to outline in the last few minutes in your program.
Absolutely, sir. You have undoubtedly made some brilliant points, as I was trying to say earlier. You've summarized the situation extremely well. You understand the northeast of this country better than most others. You know, you're saying it's not about one chief minister, but fact of the matter is that the man in the saddle today is N. Biren Singh. This is his second consecutive term in office. He is somebody who's facing rebellion within the party ranks and has been accused by the tribals of neglecting their interests. Karthike Sharma, my colleague and our executive editor, also joining me in the studio at this point. Karthike, Mr. Bhaumik makes some excellent points that I want you to touch on. He says, one, this is
Dada is unbeatable that way. Dada is unbeatable that way.
Yes.
The only point I would like to make is, let me be the devil's advocate here.
Okay.
Because yes, Dada is completely right that certain events and points were missed. For example, when Zo people felt that they are being evacuated from the protected areas. So it's not as if that the violence in Manipur erupted today. It has happened. Minor events or incidents, as I may call them, have been taking place, like running down of a place where CM was supposed to go, internet being shut down, the market being shut down. So those I would say early signs were there. But I think we have to also understand that this government has taken a very strong position on narcotics. At an all India level, the government is ensuring that narcotics do not impact us. Now, I'll make it slightly bigger geopolitically, and I think Yashuvardhan Azad ji can come in here. We have a problem in Afghanistan where Taliban and Tehreek-e-Taliban and Taliban, they are running a opium export company. Then you have Golden Triangle in Thailand. Manipur is very close there. On top of it, we have a land use issue in entire northeast. So the people who are cultivating poppy, the government went after that. You see, we also have to understand what Biren Singh was trying to do. Biren Singh was trying to stop cultivation of poppy inside Manipur protected areas. That was a mandate. He was going after them. What happened in turn was that tribals said, well, we have been living here, but the fact is that you were also growing poppy inside, and the administration was right in going after them. The matter got politicized, so the people, and it's the same logic of Dada, which he shared with me. People felt कि अरे हमारी सरकार है, हम लोगों ने वोट किया, आप हमको ऐसे कर रहे हो, हमसे ऐसे कर रहे हो. So the larger issue, Neha, is that certain good administrative actions were taken by Biren Singh, but the problem is that it created a ripple effect. going after poppy field is the right thing to do. We all understand the implication of a poppy or a heroin economy. It cripples people, it cripples entire generation. And Amit Shah and other people have written editorials, and they have very plainly spoken about the renewed mission of the government to ensure that this narcotic business goes down. And the third point is that we already understand the impact of chitta in Punjab. The way it has actually created a social problem in Punjab. So Manipur, Mizoram border areas should not become places where you have a huge booming narcotic economy. Now again, for example, now Zo people want Zo Territorial Council, like Bodo Territorial Council. So the larger debate which many people would say, Kartike, how is that possible in India? India is not an Anglo-Saxon democracy. But I always say that too much of solution to be found within the prism of identity does not work. Our constitution makers knew it. Baba Saheb Ambedkar knew it. Panditji knew it. Jawaharlal Nehru knew it. Rajendra Babu knew it. Identity is an important thing in governing your daily civil life. But if you try to make identity the governing principle of your administrative and political life, then you really have a problem. Tell me, how many identities can be accommodated in administrative council in Northeast? How many ethnicities can be created? How many autonomous spaces can be created for ethnicities? So I think we miss one word in our constitution which is very beautiful and most important, because we are focused on freedom, equality and the thing. It's called fraternity. It's called fraternity. It's called brother. I think that needs to be the point of focus. What is happening in Manipur is disappointing. Arunachal Pradesh is peaceful. Barring couple of cases of lynching long years ago in Meghalaya, nothing has happened. Tripura is that way. It's peaceful. Mizoram is peaceful, except when there was a violence between Assam police and Mizoram Zoram Thanga over the border areas. Northeast had been peaceful. Prime Minister has made 52 visits. The only Prime Minister in this country to have made, and I'm saying, let me be the devil's advocate here, 52 visits to Northeast. All ministers under Union Cabinet have been asked to spend at least 2 days in a month in Northeast. So I think, yes, Dada has a point that someone really missed the larger picture. Despite spending so much money, despite spending so much time, you have stable governments also. If you look at it, these are not fragile governments. You have stable government in Arunachal Pradesh, you have a stable government in Nagaland, you have a stable government in Tripura, you have a stable government in Manipur, barring a couple of MLAs who have not resigned from the position of MLA. They have not done it. All they have done it is they have resigned from the position of autonomous bodies. They're creating a pressure on Chief Minister, and you still have a very peaceful Meghalaya. So when it happens, it tells us that Northeast is Northeast. It's like your youngest child. You got to be extra mindful, extra careful, extra vigilant about it.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, since you were talking, Kartike, with so much passion and in such great detail about how a lot of this may be linked to the Biren Singh government's crackdown on poppy cultivation, just for the benefit of our viewers, I want to recall what the Chief Minister said recently on the social media, and I'm quoting him here. The Chief Minister said, to protect the state, the government has launched a Green Manipur campaign, identified the occupied reserve forest lands, promoted fruits and vegetable farming, and destroyed all the hidden poppy fields. The drive against narcotics is now in full swing. And has this been an unpopular move?
Yes, and before I answer that question, there's a bit of a important development which I think I should share with my panelists. The development is that the Manipur government, and this is the Gazette, has authorized all district magistrates, sub-divisional magistrates and all executive magistrates, special executive magistrates concerned to issue shoot-at-sight orders in extreme cases whereby forms of persuasion, warning, reasonable force, etc. had been exhausted under the provision of Law and Order CRPC 1973, which means, I think, Amit Shah. Now, because the reason why I read it is, Amit Shah had a telephonic conversation with the Chief Minister, and if my sources are correct, then Amit Shah has expressively told the Manipur administration to get a grip on the situation immediately.
because it has been spiraling out of control. There is already heavy deployment of the army and the paramilitary forces. Now the Central Home Ministry telling the Manipur government, issue shoot at sight orders if you must, but somehow bring the situation under control. Before we continue with this conversation with our panelists, I want to play out for you a soundbite that we have of Dr. Rajkumar Ranjan Singh, Minister of State for External Affairs, who spoke on the Manipur situation just a short while ago. Listen in.
I also would like to appeal all the communities of the Manipur to remain peacefully and try to help the government, help the society to bring the normalcy and to live harmonically and respecting each other. So that will be the best solution. And crisis like violence, we cannot solve any issue, and it will be damage, it will be hurt to the humanity. And since the settlement here in Manipur, all are human beings, and we love the nature. So we'll all together put the effort to bring the Manipur normalcy, and I appeal to all my brothers and sisters who are in Manipur to appeal themselves, to appeal to all the concerned, not to involve any kind of violence and think it as our same ethnic community, same ancestral, the evolutions were there. So we should remain silent.
अभी ये सिचुएशन अभी बहुत बुरा हाल हो रहा है और मैं बहुत अच्छा फील नहीं कर रही हूँ एक्चुअली बहुत बुरा फील कर रही हूँ कि अभी ये वायलेंस अचानक मैं सोच भी नहीं पाया ऐसे अचानक कैसे हो रहा है करके और ये कल रात से लेके बहुत भयंकर मतलब वो ज्यादा हो रहा है और मुझे चाहती हूँ कि हो सकता है तो जल्दी से जल्दी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कुछ करे कि मणिपुर में ये दोबारा मतलब ये पीस को ये सिचुएशन को खत्म होने के लिए ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट कर रही हूँ.
Brother and a sister in the state of Manipur, during the last around 24 hours, some incident of clashes, vandalisms, and arson have been reported in Imphal, Shoshanpur, Vishnupur, Kangpokpi, and More, etc. Precious lives have been lost, besides damage of property of residents, which is very, very unfortunate. These accidents are a result of prevailing misunderstanding between two sections of our society. The state government is seized of the developments and taking all steps to control the law and order situation. Additional central paramilitary forces have been requisitioned for deployment in sensitive areas. We are committed to protect the life and property of our peoples.
All right, those are the multiple reactions that have been coming in through the day to the ongoing violence in the state of Manipur. Deepak Devan, before you leave, I want to ask you this question. We've had wide-ranging comments coming in from our panelists. It's very interesting. Karthike seems to think that the Chief Minister may have taken some tough and unpopular decisions with regard to a crackdown on poppy cultivation, and maybe that is something that has angered some sections of the Manipur population, the tribals in particular, who keep accusing him of neglecting their interests. However, this is a step that needed to be taken in the larger interest of the state and the country. But then there is a slightly different view of that's been expressed by Subir Bhaumik, who says that, you know, chief ministers over the years have simply not exhibited the kind of vision that you need to address a complex issue of this nature, and that what we need is a larger land use policy and to address the identity issues rather than playing on the ethnic fault lines that politicians seem to do for their limited political gains. These are slightly differing views. What is your take?
See, first of all, I would like to say that the crackdown on poppy cultivation, everybody, every section of the society, whether it's Meitei or tribal, Naga or Kuki, they have welcomed it. The trouble started only when they started evicting people, old settlements from the newly announced protected forest or reserve forest areas. See, for a tribal, the land is the identity. Those who have been stationed there, living there for so many years, all of a sudden, if they are told to move out, forcibly they are removed, that now this has become the reserved area, now this area has fallen into protected area. This is the thing which has angered the people. On top of that, the move, that wave that Meiteis to get ST status, that has further added fuel to the fire. And I'm telling you, see, the drugs, I remember Nagas, they had welcomed the move when Assam Rifle cracked down in certain areas where the poppy cultivation was on. They praised them for doing that. So I don't think any community or any outfit, or see, one should not forget that we are talking about the relationship between the Meiteis and the tribal.
Yes.
This is the crux of the problem today.
Yes.
Not that raiding of illicit poppy cultivation. No. The removing people from the old settlements, which Manipur government claims today that this is reserve forest, that is one. And number two, the move to give them ST status.
Okay.
As I said earlier, the solution is, if the government should come out very clearly, address the people, both valley as well as tribals, telling them, okay, even if we give Meiteis the ST status, it would be on the line of what has happened in Assam. We have Assam plains area tribals and the hill area tribals. The plain area tribals do not infringe on the rights of the hill people.
So their interests are equally protected. That assurance needs to go out, but unfortunately we've seen a situation where perhaps the political leadership has not managed to make that much needed outreach. At a time like this, it's all very well to deploy the army and the paramilitary forces and issue shoot at sight orders, and perhaps it needs to be done because the violence is spiraling out of control. But what about the healing touch? What about making an important or a necessary outreach? I think that is the larger argument you're making. Mr. Diwan, thank you so much for joining us here in the studio and for sharing your perspective with us on a very important story. Mr. Subir Bhaumik, let me come back to you. You know, we've been talking about how, at the end of the day, this is really about control over land. It's about control over resources. Okay, before I complete my question for Mr. Bhaumik, I just want to point out, for the benefit of our viewers, that the pictures that they're looking at on their screen right now are the latest visuals coming in from Imphal and other parts of Manipur of the paramilitary forces being deployed in very heavy numbers. As we've said, the army has been deployed in large numbers, the paramilitary forces, the rapid action force has been deployed there in large numbers, and now shoot at sight orders have also been issued by the Manipur government on the recommendation of the Union Home Ministry. Clearly, the situation continues to be tense. All right, so Subir Bhaumik, coming back to you. We've been discussing throughout this show that this is about ethnic fault lines. This is about cultural identities that need to be sensitively addressed by the political leadership of the day. And this is equally about control.
और इसके लिए जो भी वहाँ की राज्य सरकार है, केंद्र सरकार से जो कुछ करना है, सबको मिलकर ये देखना कि वहां पर शांति आए और किसी प्रकार का हिंसक घटना वहां पर ना हो। यही प्राथमिकता है और इसी एजेंडे पे इस वक्त काम हो रहा है। सर, इसी पर देखते ही
All right.
Is this the deployment, Neha, of the? Is this the deployment which is taking place of the security forces? We just saw that there was a 130 Hercules which had, I think, landed in Nepal some time ago. And I think that this is the deployment of the armed forces.
That's correct, Karthikeya. These are the latest visuals that are coming in from Imphal and other parts of Manipur, which have witnessed a lot of the violence since yesterday. The army has been deployed, paramilitary forces have been deployed, and these are the latest visuals of those deployments that are taking place in a massive, on a massive
scale. What is surprising is that Manipur is one state which has very strong Vaishnav roots. Unlike Arunachal Pradesh, people speak Hindi, but Arunachal is very, very tribal. Nagaland is very, very different. So almost, it has a majority Christian population. Tripura is different, but the Vaishnavite footprint of the national mainstream is in Manipur. Yeah. You have different ways of the performance of the oldest art, which we call Krishna Leela. In Manipuri form, it's done very differently. So, Manipur is the only state which has a strong national connect in terms of tradition. Like you have Savaite tradition. Manipur has a strong, vibrant Vaishnavite tradition. So, that is one state which anyone, if you cover RS and BJP, they would talk about it. This state is culturally distinct and different.
And well, it has voted the BJP to power for a second consecutive term under the leadership of N. Biren Singh. And as we speak, we are looking at visuals of the heavy security deployment that is taking place in the violence-torn areas of Manipur, with the situation becoming rather serious since yesterday. Okay, I want to go back to Subir Bhaumik at this point. Subir Bhaumik, I want your reaction to what Karthikeya said a short while ago. We've been discussing that this is about, identity issues, this is about ethnic fault lines, this is about control over the land, control over resources, the fight between the tribals and the non-tribals, and perhaps also about, in your view, a lack of vision on part of the political leadership, not just the current one, but over the years and decades. This is a festering issue that has remained unresolved for a quarter of a century now. But Karthikeya has an interesting viewpoint, even if a contrarian one. He says that current chief minister, who may be facing a battle of his own within the ranks of the party in Manipur, has taken some tough, if unpopular decisions, particularly with regard to a massive crackdown on poppy cultivation, something that a lot of the tribals are in fact involved in, whatever they may say publicly, and maybe that is one of the factors that has angered and alienated those sections of the Manipuri population, and that may be part of the problem that has resulted in the violence today. Do you agree with that? What is your take?
No, I don't actually. The thing is, you're talking of, massive crackdown on poppy cultivation. What about the rising tide of inflow of Burmese drugs? By all accounts, and I have sources in Narcotics Control Bureau and all other organizations which deal with this, the flow of Burmese drugs, because of the conditions in Myanmar where there is no law and order, the flow of Burmese drugs has increased, and now it has it's taking a new route. So long the drug would come through More into Imphal and then go out into the rest of the country through the Naga areas, through Nagaland actually. Now with this railway coming up, or connecting Jiribam, this has become the new route. That straight from Myanmar through, More, it comes to Jiribam and then into Kachar district of Assam and then the rest of the country. And this has been increasing. You might have heard about this very brave police officer, T.H. Brinda, who actually resigned finally from the police because she had taken on the big drug lobby, the big drug smugglers who bring all kinds of drugs from Myanmar, both amphetamine, heroin, and others, and some very, very big people who are involved. You please try to bring her on your program and interview her. She's a very, very brave police officer, T.H. Brinda. She finally resigned and contested election. She obviously lost because she was just trying to make a point. But I don't, you sort of crack down on local poppy cultivation. You catch some tribal peddlers who are going with 100 grams of narcotics. You don't touch the very big guys who are in the trade, and you are making a big political point by systematic burning of some poppy here which has been which you have recovered from the fields. Doesn't serve the purpose due to unstable condition in Myanmar and powers that be. Drug flow from Myanmar has increased into Manipur. And it is through Manipur that these Burmese drugs, amphetamine and heroin, and grade 1 amphetamine actually are reaching the rest of the country. So crack down on local poppy farmers. And why are these poppy farmers cultivating poppy? The Burmese drug lords, having developed a good trade through this region, fairly uninterrupted, now want to develop local sources of raw material. So they are coming and instigating, or rather provoking or giving, enticing, that's the better word, enticing the local farmers to plant poppy and make more money. Now, if I have to stop this, I just can't. These are poor farmers. I just can't go and hammer them out of the forest, in the name of tough action. I'm a tough guy, man, but I have to be sensitive if I'm governing. So here, you have to come up with alternate crops. I would suggest what crops? You'd ask the tribals to plant 17 different types of spices, including black pepper. We have done it. We are doing this in Tripura. It will work in Manipur. It will work in Mizoram. In Mizoram, there is huge production of ginger. Can't the chief minister of Mizoram, or Manipur for that matter, get a big Indian investor like Mohan Meekins to set up a ginger ale factory there? It does not take very much effort. Do any of these chief ministers go to Delhi or Bangalore or any of the industrial centers of India to do a road show? Tripura got the first, Agartala became the third internet gateway of India courtesy Sheikh Hasina. She allowed her broadband to diversion. And I kept telling people up there, please go and hold a road show in Bangalore and Hyderabad to get some big IT investors into Tripura, because we now have an internet gateway. Not one such thing happened. We used to do something called an Agartala conclave, where we invited all these people, IT people, but there was no encouragement from the government. They are busy with their usual routine stuff. इसको उधर transfer करो, उसको उधर fit करो, उससे पैसा बनाओ, that kind of thing. Their agenda is restrictive and limited.
I understand the point that you're making, sir, that perhaps the country as a whole needs to pay more attention to the Northeast. Northeast leaders and chief ministers need to make their presence felt more in other parts of the country. You believe the centre isn't paying enough attention. Of course, Karthike earlier made the argument or the point that the Prime Minister, no less, has issued directives to his cabinet ministers asking them to spend a minimum of 2 days every month in the Northeast, and he has himself made no less than 52 visits to the Northeast part of the country in recent times. But I take your point that we certainly need to do a lot more to put the Northeast on the national map. Now I want to go back to Karthike. Karthike, it's very interesting. Looks like other chief ministers have started reacting to the situation in Manipur.
Yes, Neha, let me read out the tweet of Mamata Banerjee. And I would say that I think it's the story is becoming slightly bigger in the sense that other chief ministers are responding. Mamata Banerjee, in her tweet, which we'll be showing to our viewers, I am deeply concerned about the situation in Manipur. It is not the time for politics. Politics and elections can wait, but our beautiful state Manipur has to be protected first. Thus, I urge the Prime Minister and Home Minister to first take care of Manipur, restore peace there. I also urge our brothers and sisters of Manipur to stay calm, uphold peace and harmony. If we burn humanity today, then we will cease to be humans. I think I think this is not going to be this is not going to be an issue which is going to subside politically, but I'm 100% sure administratively this is going to be taken care of in next 24 hours. I know these are vexed issues, these are deep issues as Dada was taking us through. There are historical issues, these are historical grievances between different communities. Then you have this added complication of Nagaland, which has remained unresolved despite attempts by both Congress and BJP to resolve it in all its sincerity. I think I would say that it's like an eternal vigilance, I think administrative action requires eternal vigilance, and I think the learning curve here is that certain issues should not be kept pending. Though Dada has taken a different position on the issue of governance, I would say that I see it that, if you keep certain issues pending, then I think it creates a political problem. So I think those pending issues need to be resolved immediately, and now center is seized of the situation. We have to understand that when Home Minister Amit Shah speaks, it is not a conversation he is having. It is something. It is like Amit Shah actually saying what needs to be done, what how you should do it, and it is for this reason. If you look at the deployment of the Indian Armed Forces, I think in next 8 to 7 hours situation will be in complete control. These are dated visuals, which we are showing
of the violence.
These are old dated visuals, but these things have continued over a period of time. Small issues which have festered. So yes, one has to see how it can be taken care of. Neha.
In fact, Karthikeya, since you mentioned the reaction of Chief Minister of Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, who's put out a tweet saying, I'm deeply concerned about the situation in Manipur, and she's urged the Prime Minister and the Home Minister to take care of the state and restore peace and order there. Let me tell you, this issue is becoming bigger in terms of more and more political leaders from across the country now reacting to the Manipur situation. Rahul Gandhi, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, has put out a tweet saying, deeply concerned about Manipur's rapidly deteriorating law and order situation. The Prime Minister must focus on restoring peace and normalcy. I urge the people of Manipur to stay calm. Conrad Sangma, the Chief Minister of Meghalaya, has put out a tweet saying, I'm pained and disturbed to see the unrest in Manipur. The beautiful sister state has come a long way towards peace and harmony. We appeal to our brothers and sisters to come together for peace. Usually, Karthikeya, what we see is, and it's unfortunate, that when something happens in the northeast, it is only seen as a northeast issue. But considering what's happening in Manipur right now, it is a very, very serious issue, and it is big enough to merit national attention. It's big enough to merit the attention of the central government. And now, after the Meghalaya Chief Minister and the West Bengal Chief Minister, you have Congress leader Rahul Gandhi expressing concern over the situation in Manipur and issuing similar appeals to the centre to step in.
I think there are a lot of issues. Even the issue of judiciary is involved. Sometimes life is complicated. Generally people have this habit of blaming everything on one person. But if you look at the case of Manipur, these are historical issues. Now you have also you have judicial outlook here in certain issues. So it's not as if it has happened because of one political action. There are multiple things at play. Unfortunately, the events happened very quickly, and in last 48-72 hours, it happened where the narrative gets built up. It happens where, which is inside. It's like this. You have violence in Delhi. You have violence in Connaught Place. It builds up to a different narrative. You have violence in Nangloi. It's a different thing. You have violence in Jewar. It's a different thing. You have violence in Lucknow, in Hazratganj. It's treated differently. You have violence in Barabanki. It becomes a different thing, or Jhansi. So my point is, when it happens in Imphal, and when you have people like Maricom,
but the trouble, if I may come in for a moment, with the Northeast, Karthikeya, is, the tyranny of distance. That so often we've seen situations where there is violence or there is some other kind of major social or political issue, a burning one, and the rest of India simply doesn't seem to pay enough attention. And not just the people and the citizens. We in the national media, that's largely centered in the capital, New Delhi, is accused of having this bias of not paying enough attention to issues of the Northeast because of this tyranny of distance. Let's hope that changes now.
I think tyranny of distance is a real issue. You are right. And I would say the tyranny of distance operates at multiple levels. Tyranny of distance operates at the level of lack of understanding. Tyranny of distance also operates at the level where you say that you have one simple formula for various communities. I think what is really required is some sort of a interfaith or inter-ethnicity, you know, council, you know, where people with multiple ethnicities coexist not on the basis of their identity. Identity is important, you know, it is part of marriage, culture, divorce, personal laws, you know, yourself. But I think within the Indian constitution, we should make an effort that, you know, there is some sort of, you know, people say there is unity in diversity, but diversity should also create some sort of a unity, you know. There is and I personally feel that, you know, you have this overemphasis कि diversity है तो unity होगी, पर unity का भी महत्व होता है. And that unity ka mahatva has to be seen in Northeast. You have to invest in that unity. You know, it's an integral part of this country. Northeast is an important part of this country. Northeast is also integral to the imagination of this country. So when we talk about diversity in Northeast, we also need to say that, well, we also privilege unity. You know, if you keep on privileging diversity, what about unity? We have to privilege unity as a as a context. So when we talk about different people, they're united because they're all Indians. You know, they're all Indians. We are all Indians. So that thing needs to be privileged. And I think the education, a different sort of a political culture is required, which emphasizes the unity. You know, and I would again reiterate the point at the cost of repetition, pardon me Neha, it is your program, but when people say unity in diversity, I say diversity in unity. I would say diversity in unity. Unity should be privileged, because if we keep on saying that we are diverse, we are diverse, we are diverse, but then what about unity? We are all part of one nation. We are part of one country. एक राष्ट्र का हिस्सा है हम. तो ये जितने identity के difference हैं, I would again say, how many autonomous councils can be created? How many autonomous areas can be created? Can't different ethnicities live in one state? What before the Seven Sisters, weren't they governed in one big as part of one big province? It's like Pepsu. Or it's like common province of Maharashtra and Gujarat. So my point is simple. You know, people say, well, you know, this is like a fairy tale. We are not an Anglo-Saxon democracy, but that's not the point. Even there are 20 ethnicities in Spain. Every time, you know, Catalonia goes up in flame because they want referendum. My point is that if there is unity in diversity, there has to be diversity in unity. I privilege that sense of unity, and that sort of politics must be pursued by every political party. Today, for example, Mamata Banerjee, you know, this is a side point, but I have to say that, you know, she is talking about Northeast. She tried to capture the Bengali diaspora in Northeast.
Correct.
She fielded hundreds of candidates in Northeast.
Tripura, for example.
80%, 90% of them lost. They voted for Bharatiya Janata Party. They voted for Bharatiya Janata Party. My point is that the culture of politics has to change in this country across parties. You have to emphasize unity when it comes to nation. And Dada was making a very relevant point. We have a problem on our border. We have a problem of narcotics. And we have to create some sort of support and a right system for the chief ministers to go after them. You know, I might be sounding very
hawkish.
I might be sounding someone who's like supporting Biren Singh here, or someone saying, अरे इतना violence हो रहा है, यहाँ बैठ के टेबल पे बिरेन सिंह को सपोर्ट कर रहा है. नहीं, मेरा बिरेन सिंह को मैं सपोर्ट नहीं कर रहा हूँ. मैं उस चीज़ को सपोर्ट कर रहा हूँ कि अगर एंटी नारकोटिक एक्साइज है तो उसको भाई आप एथनिसिटी का अमली जामा मत पहनाइए. डू नॉट मेक इट इनटू एन इशू ऑफ एथनिसिटी. I think it's like this, you know, you have a reform, you make it about Kisan identity. I think sometimes कुछ चीजें बेहतरी के लिए होनी चाहिए. I have a different take. I respect other people's position. I have a different take on this issue, Neha.
It's interesting. Even if it's a contrarian view, it is an important and an interesting viewpoint that needs to be taken on board. And Karthikeya, since we were talking about political reactions, if Rahul Gandhi speaks on a certain issue, the Congress party cannot be far behind. So Mallikarjun Kharge, the Congress president, has now put out a tweet saying, and I quote, Manipur is burning, the BJP has created fissures. Now this is important. Rahul Gandhi has only said, I am pained by what's happening and the Prime Minister must focus on restoring peace and normalcy in Manipur. But the Congress party president has taken a different stand. stand, shall we say a deeply political stand, because he says Manipur is burning. The BJP has created fissures among communities and destroyed the peace of a beautiful state. BJP's politics of hate, division and its greed for power is responsible for this mess. We appeal to people from all sides to exercise restraint and give peace a chance. Mallikarjun Kharge, perhaps too neck deep in the Karnataka election campaign, Kartike, at the moment, because he is accusing the BJP of practicing the politics of hate and division, even in the context of Manipur violence.
Yes. Yes, Mallikarjun, obviously it's a national issue. Obviously this issue has got people's attention. Everyone is worried. Who wants violence in a northeast state? Hasn't this country seen what happened in Mizoram? Mizoram was the only state, and Aizawl was the only state capital where Indian Air Force was used. Neha, Indian Air Force has not been used even against the Naxalites in Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Gadchiroli area. So in Northeast, we have seen a different, there was a bloody fight which has taken place. Northeast, we locate Northeast as a periphery. Northeast was the center of the heart of the battle which took place in 1945. The Battle of Kohima has been described as the second bloodiest battlefront by war historians. Where did it take place? It took place in our Nagaland. Aizawl, because of insurgency, there was a Lal Denga Accord and things stabilized. The problem was there. Northeast is important. You have a China which is trying to turn LAC into an LOC, a hot border. Northeast is important because we have an issue of immigration, illegal migration. Apart from that, we have an issue of Rohingyas there. There's a drug triangle outside Northeast. You have an autocratic government which is very few people talk about. Refugees in Northeast, Manipur and Mizoram. You have refugees because of the government.
There are so many of them that have come from Myanmar and Bangladesh.
Yes, people think that everyone is coming from Bangladesh. You have people coming from Myanmar. They're changing the topography, the demography, demographic topography of Northeast. So Northeast in a way is under tremendous stress, not because something is happening by the government, but because of the geopolitics, because of the global issues. And I think we have to be very mindful of it. For example, now there is a demand in Tripura for a separate state of the tribals. And that is why I say, how long can you keep on subdividing these states? Or can you keep on subdividing Alaska? South Alaska, East Alaska, West Alaska, North Alaska. Can you divide Spain into Catalonia and various other parts? It's not possible.
And where does it end? Because today you're talking about more and more states. Then you have, also situations like secessionist movements. We've seen them in the Northeast in the past. There has been this secessionist movement called the Khalistani movement in Punjab that resulted in the assassination of a prime minister of this country. And only recently we've seen trouble in Punjab thanks to this one man, Khalistani leader called Amritpal Singh.
You know, Neha, Manipur is a very unique state. Manipur, unlike Mizoram and Nagaland, which are primarily Christian with a very strong ethnicity, Manipur is unique. You have a plain, Manipur is a valley. So you have plain and you have hill people. And you have multiple ethnicities there. So the state also gets affected by issues which are outside it. Like for example, the Nagalim issue. One. Second thing, Manipur is also important because Manipur is also near its More border. Boss, if we are going to talk about Act East politics, Act East economic infrastructure, it goes through Manipur. Where is Kaladan project? The More border is in Manipur. More is a place where you don't need a passport. Myanmaris can come 20 kilometers inside our place. I have gone there when I covered election in 2018. I went to More border, I crossed in, went to Myanmar, had food and some beer and came back. You know, people come and go there. So it's not a border like Pakistan, it's a porous border. It's not a wide border. It's an open border, and you have ethnicities falling on other side of the border also. So that makes most of these seven sisters or what these states very, very unique. They're very, very unique. And these are vibrant. Imagine that we have actually not harnessed the potential of Northeast. Imagine Northeast integrated with the Southeast Asian economies of hospitality. Imagine driving from Kolkata to More border to northern Thailand, to Laos and Cambodia. Imagine in 7 days you in Ho Chi Minh City, driving your gypsy there. Northeast has that that potential.
Yes.
Imagine yourself driving all the way to Nompe.
Yeah. Without needing a visa.
Without needing a visa, or you know, or going to any other part of beautiful Southeast Asia, which is Cambodia. So I think those potentialities get impeded by these developments.
You're quite right. Which is why, as Subir Bhaumik has been saying repeatedly since the start of this show, this is a very, very serious issue that needs to be addressed. You cannot let this situation spiral out of control. The political leadership cannot be a mute spectator. Yes, they have deployed the army and the paramilitary forces, but there needs to be a far greater initiative. There needs to be an outreach to these communities, as Mr. Bhaumik keeps saying, because these are festering wounds that have remained open for a quarter of a century now. Do we need a healing touch? We keep talking about the need for a healing touch in the context of Kashmir. Is it time we talked about a healing touch for the state of Manipur, which is witnessing so much violence, where there are these there are these ethnicities, where there are these fault lines? Let me go back to Subir Bhaumik at this point. Subir Bhaumik, just so much to talk about, but I want your reaction to a couple of recent developments, a couple of new developments that we've shared with our viewers in just the last few minutes. Of course, we've been playing the statement of the Chief Minister of Manipur over and over again. We've seen, Mary Com express her grave concern over this issue. Now you have other political party leaders. You have the Chief Minister of West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, expressing her pain and anguish over the ongoing violence in Manipur and appealing to the Home Minister and the Prime Minister to restore calm and peace. You have Congress leader Rahul Gandhi saying this is a very painful and disturbing situation. The centre must intervene immediately. You have Conrad Sangma, the Meghalaya Chief Minister, saying, it is a painful situation. Law and order must be restored immediately. He's appealed to, as he put it, his brothers and sisters of Manipur to maintain calm. And then, interestingly, Mallikarjun Kharge, the Congress party president, perhaps too caught up in the Karnataka election campaign, actually accusing the BJP of being responsible for the current situation in Manipur, saying it's all thanks to its politics of hate and divisiveness. Your thoughts on these various political reactions that have started coming in from different parts of the country?
To actually look at all these reactions. I find this really boring that you take so much time to list them out. Mamata Banerjee, she should handle her own state properly. I'm sitting right here in Calcutta. There were riots here between Hindus and Muslims, which has not happened in West Bengal during the entire, for a very long time. She can't handle these, problems here in her state, and she's sermonizing about what happens in Manipur, which is 10 times more complex a state, in terms of ethnic management than West Bengal. Who gives these people all these rights to sermonize? Can they name all the districts in Manipur? Karthikeya was talking of, the Prime Minister making 52 trips, and every, minister is supposed to go there and spend 2, days here. Ask these guys if they know the geography of the region properly. I am challenging. I'm going to put on table the name of 10 districts in different states of Northeast. And if these ministers can come up with 60% correct answers, I'll cut my ears and put it in front of you. These picnic tours and going there and, khatirdari and all that makes no difference unless these people actually put their mind and heart into understanding the problem of the region. It's just tourism. बहुत अच्छा जगह है, खूबसूरत जगह है. अरे यार हमने ये लोकटाक लेक देख लिया, उधर नाव चला लिया. What does that help? If you go with a closed mind, as you say, you want to put everything in one straight jacket. India is a diverse place and its diversity has to be respected. You can't have one stroke solution for everything. And therefore, if you go there with this kind of a mind that this is what it should look like, that Manipur also should look like UP or something like that, it doesn't work. Okay, so basic thing is, this tourism does not work. 2 days a month, they're going there, wasting a lot of government money. I'm challenging them. I'll put names of 5 districts of 5 different northeastern cities. If you can point it on the map properly, I'll cut my ears and put it in front of you. I know the knowledge level of these guys.
Okay, a very, very passionate response, rebuttal to you, Kartikeya.
No, there is no, I have to concede that, you know, it is my point of view, but Dada has his point of view, and Dada understands Northeast better than me. I have to concede.
Mr. Bhome, coming back to you in a moment.
So, Dada, my question to you is, my question to you is, Dada, that, you know, you have spoken so eloquently about this situation there. What are the pending issues, Dada, between this Kuki, Naga and Meitei issue, which is exploding time to time? You know, if you can tell this to our new viewers, who you know, just to break down this Manipur turmoil for our new viewers, Dada.
The very simple thing is, you had 2 major ethnic groups, the Nagas and the Kukis, who see themselves as different from the Meiteis. Don't forget, the Meiteis were the ruling race. They were the people who ran the kingdom of Manipur. And their rulers went into the tribal areas and conquered those areas and slowly tried to integrate them through, you know, different practices, including intermarriages, bringing in tribal princes and all that. Yeah, like, you know, Badshah Akbar's, you know, matrimonial alliances and all that. Point here is, the Manipuris, the Meiteis are the ruling race. And the Nagas and the Kukis, they see themselves as different, and they want autonomy, because autonomy not only gives them a sense of identity, but also access to resources which they otherwise think is denied to them. Now, when you don't grant autonomy, people become separatists. People become separatists. That's how the dynamics have worked. When the Mizos didn't get justice in the greater Assam state, and Kartikeya, you are pitching for, you know, Northeast being under one umbrella during the British rule. The greater Assam did not work because the Assamese bureaucracy, the Assamese upper caste, failed to understand the tribal population, their aspiration. So one after another, the states went out of Assam. Assam and its elites were the natural rulers of Northeast. They were the natural leaders of Northeast. But because of their parochialism, because of their failure to understand tribal aspirations, you have Meghalaya, you have Mizoram, you have Nagaland. Nagas were the first to go out. You know, so the point here is कि जब हम थोड़ा सा autonomy मांगते हैं, you try to deny me, and you try to be parochial, and you try to be overbearing, then I take out my gun and I start shooting, and you start giving me more importance. So that's the dynamics. From 1950s, the Mizos were looking for greater autonomy. They didn't get it. Then came the Motam famine, the rat famine, and the Assamese bureaucracy and the elites, political elites, completely failed to tackle the problem of Mizoram. Then Mizoram went up in flames. As you rightly said, the Indian Air Force had to be used in. Why? Because Mizoram, unlike the other states of Northeast, did not have, had a starting point of insurgency. Everywhere else, it slowly built up. In Mizoram, on the night of 28th February 1966, the MNF took over 7 towns physically. Only Aizawl hung on because of the brave defenders of Assam Rifles. So air power had to be used to dislodge these rebels who had physically taken over territory. The Naxals or any of the other insurgents in India's insurgents history, and I know this subject because I've written extensively and researched this, they have never controlled territory as such. But in Mizoram, they took over territory, so you had to dislodge them and you used air power. The point here I'm trying to make is, when I'm asking for 5 kilo of rice, you don't give me that, then I start shooting, then you will have to give me 50 kilos and still maybe you can't satisfy me. So the point here is that these ethnic groups, it's ultimately, as Neha rightly said, is resource politics. I am Kuki. I see myself as a minority. Rajiv Gandhi actually made a very good point on the day Mizoram became a state, because the Mizo National Front wanted to deny the Chakma Autonomous Council of its autonomy. They said Chakmas are infiltrators and all that. The Chakmas have lived in the Mizo Hills because it is adjacent to CHD. The Rajiv Gandhi said, you are a small minority in India, you Mizos. If you want justice from Delhi, from us, you should be prepared to do the same justice to the still smaller nationalities who exist in Mizoram. So you know what? The first ethnic explosion in Northeast was the bigger nationalists. They challenged the Indian state. Nagas, Mizos. Then came the smaller groups. In Mizoram, you have the Lais, the Maras, the Chakmas. They want a union territory today because they think the Mizos are the ruling race. They are overbearing. They don't give us what we deserve. Same in Manipur. So here, somebody is a minority in some place and somebody is a majority in some place. And this is a very dynamic, fluid situation. It has to be addressed on the specifics of the situation rather than one brush, theory, Hindi, Hindu, Hindustan.
One size doesn't fit all. That is the larger point you're making.
Exactly.
We cannot have the one-size-fits-all approach.
Is this the delegation?
That's right. So, Mr. Bhaumik, I have to say that, sir, you are more knowledgeable about the Northeast and its issues than most other people. Listening to you is almost like a history and geography class rolled into one. But we have an update for our viewers. The picture that you see on your screen right now, that is a picture of a delegation of the Manipur Congress led by party state chief Kesham Meghachandra and CLP, Congress Legislature Party leader Ukram Ibobi Singh, calling on the governor today and saying there needs to be an immediate intervention of the government of India to bring normalcy in the state of Manipur. That is the latest that we have for you, a Congress delegation calling on the governor of Manipur, saying the situation is getting out of hand. We must intervene. The center needs to intervene to bring the situation under control. Before I continue with this conversation, I want to welcome another guest. Digjyoti Lehkar, senior journalist who covers Northeast India, is also with us on the show. Mr. Lehkar, if you could give me just a moment, I will come back. I'll come to you. But I'm told that we need to first play out a soundbite of Congress leader and Member of Parliament Jairam Ramesh, who has also reacted to the ongoing situation in Manipur. Reactions coming in thick and fast, especially from the Congress party. Let's listen into what Jairam Ramesh said a short while ago.
All of December 2021, January of 2022 and part of February 2022 in Manipur, campaigning for the Congress party for the assembly elections. Our campaign was not successful. The BJP got a resounding mandate, a convincing mandate, the double-engine government in Manipur. That was their slogan. And a double-engine government was installed in Manipur in February of 2022. But less than 15 months later, the entire state of Manipur is in flames. Society is in ferment. Internet and social media suspended. The chief minister under siege. MLAs resigning right, left and center. And what does the Prime Minister and the Home Minister do? They're busy going around Karnataka, polarizing Karnataka. Manipur, really tragic what has happened. All sections of Manipur's diverse society unhappy and up in flames. Youth dissatisfied, tribals dissatisfied, non-tribal communities dissatisfied. This is a betrayal of the people's mandate. And I think this calls for the sternest possible action to restore peace and tranquility and normalcy. Congress cadres, Congress leaders are being attacked. Their homes are being attacked. Critics of the Chief Minister are being attacked. How long can the country see this insensitivity to the suffering of the people of Manipur? I really feel very, very anguished and pained by what has happened.
Peace has to be maintained and every step has to be taken to bring the situation completely under control. And that's what our appeal would be also to everyone, that whatever help is required, the state government is doing its bit. Whatever is needed from the central government, that would happen. And the priority remains that the situation must return to normalcy at the soonest.
All right. Now, even as many political leaders are expressing their concern over the ongoing situation in Manipur and urging the centre to intervene, some Congress leaders seem to have taken a strident position. Jairam Ramesh and Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge are actually accusing the centre of being responsible for the current situation in Manipur. Let me now get a word in from Digjyoti Lehkar, who joined us on the show just a short while ago. Mr. Lehkar, welcome to the show. We are talking in great detail about why things have come to such a pass in the state of Manipur. Why are we witnessing so much violence, and what do you think the state and the central governments need to do at this point in time to address these deep fault lines beyond going just deployment of army and paramilitary forces?
Exactly. The thing is that basically, if you see an analysis what is going on inside Manipur, that the issue is not sprout out right now. It was a very last 3-4 months onwards. It was a slow and steadily. It was started because when the issue to provide ST status to ruling majority Meiteis communities has come out, and then onwards we have seen there is a difference of opinion and protest from the different tribal communities, those who are living in hills area of Manipur. And particularly, I would like to mention that in Manipur, in 4 districts, Manipur East, West, and Senapati, like these areas, the Meiteis communities are there dominated, and they are the always playing a upper hand in ruling the state, whether as their even the chief minister and Biren Singh belong to Meitei communities, and providing ST status to Meiteis. And at this moment, after in 75 years of India's independence, is raised eyebrows to at all levels. And in fact, we have seen still almost the protest has been started, and of last 2-3 days, the violence has been spread up, and it's so ultimately. Home Minister Amit Shah, he has to rank Chief Minister and Biren Singh and deployed army in all 8 districts of Manipur. And we have seen that Indian Army, they are trying, Assam Rifles, they are trying, particularly Assam Rifles, they are trying to uh, bring normalcy. But still, incidents are going on throughout the Manipur, and so far, what we have received more than around there are a report of 25% might be so far they'll lost the lives, but officially yet to confirm. And moreover, if we see that particularly the 2 professors of Manipur University, they have also been reported killed. And moreover, we have, being a journalist, as you mentioned, well, that being a journalist, we are aware that most of the militant group who have campaigned or they have camps in Myanmar, it's all known to everyone in India, and that's particularly Kuki Revolutionary Army. They already reach Manipur, they reach Surachanpur districts, and they step for road march, and even the local people, particularly the Kuki community, they have supported it. So this is an very internal report that we have received, and as the internet connection and mobile network has been temporarily suspended, so it's very difficult to get proper inside interior information. And moreover, if you see that even the politically, there are for viewing the step of Anne Biren Singh, the Chief Minister of Manipur, even the ruling BJP MLAs have started few days back to campaign in Delhi, and they have opposed certain moves of Anne Biren Singh. And
Yes.
even we have seen now the situation which is need to control, instead of deploying all forces, I think it should be
So can I ask you this, Mr.
politically or
Lekar?
leadership.
Can I ask you this follow-up question before I take this back to Karthike? Yes, we have been talking about how the Chief Minister is rather beleaguered at this point because there is this growing rebellion within the party ranks.
Is he right now? Is he getting support from Amit Shah? I think he'll be better placed to answer that.
Or at least the fact that multiple MLAs, though they've not quit their posts as legislators, but they have quit various government posts. Many of them have come and camped here in Delhi, and the assessment is that they are demanding that the central leadership have replaced N. Biren Singh as the Chief Minister. They're not happy with his functioning. But that issue apart, Mr. Lekar, the question I want to ask you is, given all this violence, the unrest, the chaos that we are witnessing, do you believe that the state government needs to do a lot more to reach out to all sides, to calm frayed nerves and to essentially give them an assurance that everyone's interests will be protected? Do you really believe the state government has done that so far?
Yes, that's the need of the hour. Because the innocent people, they left, even the innocent people, they left their life, somehow they managed their escape their lives, and their houses been abandoned in and around Impal. For the report, whatever we have received, and moreover, we have seen this violence not only between Meiteis and Cookies, even it spread to Nagas also, and even the role of NSCN, particularly IM and NSCN, Ishaq Muiba, these groups may, and even other fraction of NSCN and other militants, they will be able to grow their activities more in Tabulton, Manipur, because Manipur is a state where more than 30, once upon a time in Manipur, more than 33 militants group of various ethnic tribes were there. And Bhobigda mentioned one thing, that Mizoram and other northeastern states, they have been come out from Assam due to the bureaucrats, Assamese bureaucrats and leaders' behavior. That is not at all fact. The thing is that the small ethnic tribes, they are very much indigenous, independence in nature, and then they want their own system, own customary laws and everything. And that is why if some other tribes dominated their self system, then oppose, and this kind of protests have come out. And one way, Meiteis group, they are pressurizing to get their demanding ST status, and whereas other tribes, they are protecting themselves. So in this situation, even the question of imposition of to control the situation, because people are even looking for that, who will save them. The way, the way, there are a lot of visuals, and I think, I don't know whether it will be telecasted in national media or not, but there are a lot of other visuals, like looting of houses, and set ablaze houses, and this kind of things are happening. And totally one thing, state government is totally failed to control the situation. That is why army and paramilitary forces have been imposed there. And it is at this time, it's a need of the hour to bring peace and one-way assurance to the people of Manipur, of various ethnic tribes, those who are living in particularly hills areas, and because they're afraid that once we come down to plain area, then our life will be in trouble. So this is the most important things, and I think that government immediately, and central government should immediately take steps, because during the Narendra Modi led and BJP government since 2014, we have seen the tribal insurgency. It's a very, very important what I'm mentioning. The tribal insurgency in Assam is ended, and in other parts of the northeast constraints, it is very, very minimized. So people want peace and development, and only if you see that NDA or BJP-led governments are coming up on, and they have rejected the Congress, only that people want development and peace, and that is the should be the keep the main motto, to take the initiative to bring peace and permanent one kind of solution to Manipur and as a whole, the region.
We need a peace initiative. There needs to be a peace initiative from the government of Manipur. There needs to be a peace initiative from the centre. As Mr. Bhaumik said earlier, this is too big and serious an issue to be left to a chief minister alone. We need the central government to intervene. There have already been multiple appeals that have been made to the Prime Minister and the Home Minister to take concrete measures to ensure that peace can be restored in violence-torn Manipur. We will continue with this conversation in just a moment, but before that, let's play out once again for our viewers some of the big political reactions that have been coming in to the ongoing developments in the state of Manipur.
Brother and sister in the state of Manipur, during the last around 24 hours, some incident of clashes, vandalisms and arson have been reported in Imphal, Shoshanpur, Bishnupur, Kangpokpi and More, etc. Precious lives have been lost, besides damage of property of residents, which is very, very unfortunate. These accidents are a result of prevailing misunderstanding between two sections of our society. The state government is seized of the developments and taking all steps to control the law and order situation. Additional central paramilitary forces have been requisitioned for deployment in sensitive areas. We are committed to protect the life and the property of our peoples.
I also would like to appeal all the communities of the Manipur to remain peacefully and try to help the government, help the society to bring the normalcy and to live harmonically and respecting each other. So that will be the best solution. And crisis like violence, we cannot solve any issue, and it will be damage, it will be hurt to the humanity. And since the settlement here in Manipur, all are human beings, and we love the nature. So we'll all together put the effort to bring the Manipur normalcy, and I appeal to all my brothers and sisters who are in Manipur to appeal themselves, to appeal to all the concerned, not to involve any kind of violence and think it as our same ethnic community, same ancestral, the evolutions were there. So we should remain silent.
Peace has to be maintained and every step has to be taken to bring the situation completely under control. And that's what our appeal would be also to everyone, that whatever help is required, the state government is doing its bit. Whatever is needed from the central government, that would happen. And the priority remains that the situation must return to normalcy at the soonest.
All of December 2021, January of 2022 and part of February 2022 in Manipur, campaigning for the Congress party for the assembly elections. Our campaign was not successful. The BJP got a resounding mandate, a convincing mandate, the double-engine government in Manipur. That was their slogan. And a double-engine government was installed in Manipur in February of 2022. But less than 15 months later, the entire state of Manipur is in flames. Society is in ferment. Internet and social media suspended. The chief minister under siege. MLAs resigning right, left and center. And what does the Prime Minister and the Home Minister do? They're busy going around Karnataka, polarizing Karnataka. Manipur, really tragic what has happened. All sections of Manipur's diverse society unhappy and up in flames. Youth dissatisfied, tribals dissatisfied, non-tribal communities dissatisfied. This is a betrayal of the people's mandate. And I think this calls for the sternest possible action to restore peace and tranquility and normalcy. Congress cadres, Congress leaders are being attacked. Their homes are being attacked. Critics of the Chief Minister are being attacked. How long can the country see this insensitivity to the suffering of the people of Manipur? I really feel very, very anguished and pained by what has happened.
अभी ये सिचुएशन अभी बहुत बुरा हाल हो रहा है और मैं बहुत अच्छा फील नहीं कर रही हूँ एक्चुअली बहुत बुरा फील कर रही हूँ कि अभी ये वायलेंस अचानक मैं सोच भी नहीं पाया ऐसे अचानक कैसे हो रहा है करके। और ये कल रात से लेके बहुत भयंकर मतलब वो ज्यादा हो रहा है। और मुझे चाहती हूँ कि हो सकता है तो जल्दी से जल्दी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कुछ करे कि मणिपुर में ये दोबारा मतलब ये पीस को ये सिचुएशन को खत्म होने के लिए ये मैं रिक्वेस्ट कर रही हूँ।
All right. Lots of reactions coming in, including boxing legend Mary Kom, who of course hails from the state of Manipur. And Kartike, as is the case with most issues in this country, things do tend to get politicized. So while you have political leaders expressing concern and anguish over the violence in Manipur, you also have several Congress leaders now coming out and training their guns on the BJP, saying it is this party and its government which is responsible for the current state of affairs in Manipur. Your thoughts?
I would say that the situation will be brought under control, and when it comes to law and order problem, law and order situation, any part of Northeast, I think crass politicization should not be done. It's like you don't do politics when it comes to state of Punjab. A lot of parties refrain from commenting on Amritpal issue. So I think even in the context of Northeast, I think this politicization is not going to work because these are historical issues. It's not as if BJP created them 9 years ago. You have the Kuki issue, you have the Meiteis issue, you have the Naga issue. The Nagaland issue or the Nagalam issue precedes Indian independence. It started in 1920s. The Naga Council started in 1920s. In fact, when Simon Commission came to India, Naga Council, they had the representatives ready to meet them. So India, the amalgamation of various, I would say, principalities, states, territories have taken a different route. But what has happened over a period of time is that assertion of ethnic identities are going beyond the, I would say, defined democratic or geographical norms. Now, how many times are you going to cut down a state into a smaller part? You can't create a state out of 200 villages. This is not a feudal India. Aapko 200 gaon diye, aapko 50 gaon diye out of ethnicity. A constitution gives you individuals equal rights. So I think the whole issue is that sometimes what happens is that in any movement which Mr. Bhaumik very rightly pointed out, certain communities benefited from it. For example, in the Mandal Commission, the Yadavs benefited from it. 20, 30 years down the line, you have new OBC caste asserting themselves, and that is why you have their chief ministers in North India. In Northeast, I think it's also because you have courts, you have governments, these are small states, it's a porous border, and very few people are not taking into account that it is a porous border. Not everything is happening because a stern political action or administrative action has been taken. Then you have political actors from other side trying their hand in our domestic affairs. I'm not saying that everything is happening which has a logic outside this country. I'm not saying that the problem lies beyond Indian borders. No. The problem lies within our borders, but the issue is that it is getting exaggerated, it's becoming bigger because you have these actors stationed outside. If you recall, the first surgical strike which India did was on the Myanmar border. Absolutely. It was on the international border. Yeah. And plus, you see, Myanmar is a difficult state. It's running its own campaign, it is creating an influx of people. Our imagination is limited to Rohingyas. What about Chin people? Chin people have flooded Mizoram and Manipur. There are thousands of them. So, people feel that the demography is being changed. Assam, what is it? It's about demography. Ki jo hamari zameen hai, usse mein minority ho gaye. Also, as the Bhaumik Minister very rightly said, there's some, you are a majority here, but you are a minority there. You are a minority here, you are a majority there. So, it's creating a lot of problems. That is why we need a fresh imagination. We need a framework which thinks beyond ethnicities. You need a framework which is cooperative in nature. You need a framework whereby Kuki, Nagas, Meiteis, being Kuki, Nagas, Meiteis, can resolve their differences on the issue of Indians, They are Indians. My point is that if everything has to be resolved from the position of demography, it really becomes very, very difficult. It really, it becomes difficult. It's like the debate going back to the Pune Pact of Gandhi and Ambedkar, separate electorate. So, this has plagued Indian continent under colonial, it's a colonial legacy. It has really created problems in modern India. We have sustained these issues, and some political parties have crafted the entire politics around these identities.
Absolutely. I mean, the very emergence of so many regional parties, regional satraps, many of whom now actually fancy themselves even as future Prime Minister of this country, it all has its roots in these ethnic and regional identities.
Not only ethnic and regional identities, Neha, our problem is that when we talk about Manipur, our imagination is, for example, limited to the issue of Kukis, Meiteis and Nagas. What is really required is structural change. As we were being told that you need to do land reform, you need to ensure that there is no exodus, you need to ensure that people get jobs there. You would say that this is very stereotypical, but my answer to this stereotypicality is that if you don't do this, then how do you create an integrated Northeast? Northeast in itself is a unit. Then you have 7 units. It's like Central Assam, Lower Assam, Upper Assam. It's like Lower Arunachal, Upper Arunachal, Plain Arunachal, Tribal Arunachal, non-tribal Hill Arunachal, Tribal Plain Arunachal. Complexities are welcome, but I think it's time that these complexities are also dealt from the prism of unity. So my point is very simple, that Northeast has undergone a lot of turmoil. There has been peace in the last 20 years. Little events have taken place, but then this whole demography changing thing, there has to be certain answers. They cannot be resolved in next 8 years, 7 years, but they need to be resolved, Neha.
Yes.
They need to be resolved.
Absolutely. A lot of this is centered around the ethnic fault lines that exist in a state like Manipur, which surely is an important issue and perhaps does need to be addressed, because as Mr. Bhaumik said, you cannot homogenize a country like India. Many have argued that it's not one country, it's many Indias within India. However, having said that, this is equally, a war, as it were, over land and resources and who gets to control these. Now that you have the Kukis and the Nagas on the one hand, who constantly say that they feel marginalized, and the Meiteis on the other hand, who are now actually seeking the status of a scheduled tribe, something which is not acceptable to the tribal community. The larger question here is, Karthikeya, is it not time for both the government of Manipur and the centre to launch a peace mission, if you will, and to launch a massive outreach to reassure all sides who are involved in this current fighting that everyone's interests will be safeguarded, nobody will be left out on the margins. It is not a zero-sum game. If something is being done to uplift a particular community, that does not necessarily mean that it has to translate into another community suffering. It doesn't have to be a zero-sum game, but have we got the messaging right? Has the government got the messaging right? I think that is also a critical question here.
Yes, I think there are a lot of things, but there are a lot of complexities which are not available to people in Delhi. There are a lot of complexities. When we talk about Northeast, there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things which happen. For example, I've been told that very soon we'll be joined by Rajat Sethi. Rajat Sethi is former advisor to N. Biren Singh. So, I will be very glad to ask him the complexity of the issue. Why is this happening? And there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to Northeast. I had the privilege and opportunity to meet people like Pema Khandu and other people. It's not easy governing Northeast when loyalties are primordial. Outlook is identity based. You have a bad experience, colonial experience, and you have a bad experience with the so-called administration which British built. Britishers had a lot of IS officers from West Bengal. So it became Bengali versus Northeast. So these issues are there. And then you had this problem of illegal immigration from Bangladesh. Yeah. So Northeast has its pain points, big pain points, and then you had huge Alpha issue. You had then Lal Denga Accord in Mizoram. So there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things which are happening, but I would say that I'm not losing hope. You know, I would definitely say that Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, they need to be resolved on the basis of what you call a thorough political consensus. And you know, very soon we'll be joined by, and I'm telling all our viewers, with me and Neha, Rajat Sethi, who played a very crucial role. He has an active, backroom boy in context of Bharatiya Janata Party in Northeast. He has been advisor to N. Biren Singh, and I'm just telling you that he would be giving us a very good perspective on the issue of Manipur. But yes, changing chief ministers and other, I don't think it's going to happen easily.
In fact, I want to ask you this. You're a political animal. You follow the BJP and the Congress very, very closely, Karthikeya. What do you attribute this recent rebellion that we've seen against N. Biren Singh to? This is, of course, before this kind of violence actually erupted. You've had at least 4 MLAs quitting their government posts, many disgruntled MLAs coming to the national capital, seeking an audience with the central BJP leadership and hoping to tell them to actually replace the chief minister and effect an immediate cabinet rejig. Why is this happening?
I think it doesn't happen. I think it doesn't happen Bharatiya Janata Party. You know, because this is the government of Narendra Modi. I'm telling you that, you know, the force will not work. The change in BJP will happen on its own accord. Did we know when the Chief Minister of Gujarat was to be changed? Did we know that when Yudhirappa was to be retired? Did we know that Bombay will be the candidate? No, because BJP functions differently from the Congress party. In Congress party, before they announce, the media is on the story for 2 hours. And they say, we broke the story, we broke the story.
No leaks in the BJP.
So there are no leaks in the BJP. So even if Mr. Shah is unhappy with Biren Singh, we'll come to know 3 months after Biren Singh has been replaced. So, you know, that's the way Bharatiya Janata Party is. So if you got the information, BJP, it is official. There is nothing called unofficial information. Yes. That's the way they have built the party. You have to give it to them. You know, it's like you know the decisions. You don't get to know the decision-making process. And this is something which I remember when a late, very senior politician of BJP told me in 2015. He said, Karthikeya, the difference is journalists were party to the decision-making, or they would know the decision-making process. We will tell you the decision, but no one else is going to be party to the decision making. That will be internal to us, and we will know. And I think that's the real reason. Who knows what is happening in Manipur?
In fact, some journalists have even been accused of advising the Congress party on what to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you know, in context of Manipur, who knows how many special advisors have flown in? You know what the Home Secretary is doing, you know what the IB director is doing, what they're doing in context of civil society management. Because when you have a situation like this, you have to manage civil society. So you have civil society managers managing the situation. You have community leaders. Community leaders will be activated. You have retired bureaucrats, they will be activated. So I think a lot of things are in place. The forces have been deployed. My idea is normalcy is going to come in next 24 hours. Center has become active.
You're sticking your neck out here and telling us that normalcy will return to Manipur in 24 hours.
Yes, normalcy will return to Manipur in 24 hours. My position is different. Will they be able to resolve the issue? You see, the larger issue is, will they be able to resolve the issue?
Yes.
I don't think they will be able to resolve the issue so easily. They will be able to control it right now, because these are historical legacies, the Kuki, the Nagas, the Meiteis. These are historical identities. It is evolved over a period of time. They have acquired a different outlook. So when you have to deal with historical identities, you need to have a sort of a long view. And I think the long view here is, how do you reconcile the interest of these communities?
Exactly.
How do you reconcile the interest? If you want to clear an area, you don't dispossess them, you reallocate certain other areas. You have a land stress issue. Where do they go now? Right now the violence is taking place. And now we are joined by Rajat Sethi. Rajat, thank you so much for joining us. He is former advisor to N. Biren Singh. Rajat, am I audible to you? We are also joined by a colleague, Neha Khanna. Rajat?
Yeah, hi.
Hi Rajat. Rajat, thank you so much. I must introduce Rajat to all our viewers. He is the former advisor to Manipur Chief Minister, Mr. Biren Singh, and he's a person who understands Northeast very well in entirety. So Rajat, my question to you is, what is happening in Manipur? Can you take us through?
I think there are several layers to this complex, vexed issue around zero-sum sort of a game between different communities. There are three prominent communities, the Meitei community, which does not enjoy the tribal status, and two other communities, namely the Naga community and the Kuki community, which enjoys the tribal status. The Meiteis who practice, a big section of them practices Vaishnavism, the Vaishnav sect of the Hindu religion. Whereas a few of them also still follow their Sanamahi, the old animist religion. And they comprise around 55% of population, and the two smaller tribes divide equally over the rest 45% of the population share. The real problem here is land. That is where all the trouble between various communities has been going on for past several decades. We have seen that in Manipur, Nagas and Kukis have fought for land, forest land and land in the hill areas, and there has been genocides in the 90s. So there is a very brutal, dark history associated with when it comes to land issues in the state of Manipur. And this time the flare-up is between the Kuki community on one side and the Meitei community on the other side, and the trigger has been 3 or 4. There was simmering tension underlying, primarily because of 2 or 3 initiatives that the state government had been taking. First was around mapping the land, doing geotagging, identifying forest land, earmarking it, and ensuring that forest land is not encroached upon. That's number one. Number two was going against poppy cultivation in the region, in the hill region. Predominant areas in the hill region were under poppy cultivation, and that is the reason, if you look at the Golden Triangle, it comprises of countries like Myanmar, Laos and Cambodia, and its shadows fell on the state of Manipur. And this is the reason it was part of the larger sort of drug cartel, drug routes through which drug entered into the state of Manipur. So government went against it aggressively, and the farmers did not have any other alternative means other than growing poppy. So there was simmering tension when farmers were losing their means to earn money, earn livelihood, and no alternatives were provided. Then the third trigger came in around the ST status of Meiteis. Now, a lot of Meiteis for a very long period of time have never asked for a ST status. They have resisted being classified as a plain tribe. They've always said that we are not tribals, we have not lived on the hill areas, and we have a long-standing civilization for the past 2 millennia, and we don't call ourselves as tribal. So there was a pejorative sense associated with the word tribal, and they didn't want to associate with that. But gradually, when land became an issue, jobs became an issue, all of these culminated and built pressure that the Meitei community also looked for the ST status. And by the way, in the northeastern region, you need not be living only in the hills to qualify for a scheduled tribe. You can also be a plain tribe, like the tea tribes. Tea tribes, are coming under the ST status. There are other such small tribes which are also living in the plain areas, are being brought under the ambit of Schedule 6 as well as the ST status. That is where the High Court came in and said that the central government should look into it, which caused, the current flare-up. The tribal societies, both the Naga and the Kuki, got together. There was some ransacking happening, some arson happened in one district, but then it spread across the state, and it created loots and plunder, and common citizens got affected. And and once the communal tension flares up,
Rajat, are you saying, Rajat, I'm just interrupting you. There's a bit of information which I'll give, then Neha will ask the question. Manipur government has ordered Reliance, Geofiber, Airtel Extreme, BSNL, etc. to bar broadband and data services in the wake of widespread violence in the state government. And these orders the state government yesterday issued orders pertaining to the suspension of data service in the state for 5 days. I just wanted to know, do you think that it's primarily because of the poppy cultivation, the anti-narcotic drive of Biren Singh, which is destabilizing the whole issue, because poppy, the heroin, was being grown in the forest areas? Or is it because of the unresolved Kuki, Naga, Meitei issue, which has also resurfaced, and they have done piggy bank sort of a thing here?
See, Kartikeya ji, you would understand that politics in general plays a very important role when it comes to communal flare-ups. So there is a political angle also to it. There was some rumblings that certain MLAs were not happy with the chief minister, and there were certain mass resignations, and a lot of cookie MLAs were resigning. So I would say it's a combination, and all of these things, when they juxtapose, they come together, is when such a large scale of flare-ups happen. Otherwise there are enough buffers politically, socially, etc., to contain such level of aggression. So I would not pinpoint on one issue. It's just an amalgamation of several issues coming and conflating together. That's the principal reason of why it went so bad, the situation.
Okay, Rajat, this is Neha from the studio. I want to ask you a couple of questions. You very eloquently listed some of the biggest factors that you believe have resulted in the violence that we've seen in Manipur in the last couple of days in particular. My question to you is twofold. Number one, as you right now pointed out, that there has been a degree of rebellion against Chief Minister N. Birender Singh. Many of the MLAs have been unhappy. They've quit their government posts. Some of them have come to the capital. There's been talk that they want him replaced as Chief Minister. The allegation is that he is seen as being prejudiced in favor of the Meiteis, and the tribals, the Kukis and the Nagas in particular, accuse him of sidelining them and ignoring their interests. So my first question to you is, why this anger against the Chief Minister of Manipur? And number two, the question that also perhaps needs to be asked is, now that we are seeing that Manipur is almost burning, isn't it time for the government of Manipur and perhaps the centre as well to launch a massive outreach to calm frayed tempers and send out the message that everyone's interests will be protected? This is not a zero-sum game.
Well, when the Chief Minister was sworn in back in 2017, and when I joined the government as his advisor, I worked with him very closely for 5 years, and I can tell you his popularity in the state of Manipur, and the reason why BJP came back in power, was his outreach to the hill community, to the tribal community. He was first CM who was seen that he could, allay the fears or the insecurities of both the Meiteis as well as the tribal communities. And that is why he was referred to as People's CM, because he broke open the sort of barriers that the previous chief ministers, who were largely Meitei, used to build around them, and they never made an outreach to the tribal communities at all. At a point in time, Ibobi Singh, who was the previous chief minister for 15 years from the Congress party, he had absolute zero communication. The breakdown of communication was so much that when Ibobi used to travel to a Naga village, there were open, AK-47 shooting happening at him when he used to step down off a helicopter. So that was the state of affairs or communication breakdown between the tribals and the chief minister. But with Birenji leading from the front, he ensured that he will, make a special outreach to the tribal community and ensure that their insecurities are addressed. But what has happened now is that High Court had come out with something which was disturbing the status quo. And I think, whenever court steps in and tries to take over the legislative aspects under its own ambit, and there is no societal build-up over a decision which is so so extreme, this is what happens on the ground. High Court took a decision to say that yes, we want to recommend the ST status, but you need to build consensus on the ground. And judges can't do that. I'm sorry to say, with all due respect to the High Court, this is where you break down the legislative process, which is so delicate in nature. And, once these things come in, and then suddenly, see, all the other issues, be it the forest land survey, is all legal, it's all mandated. Even if the farmers or the Kuki community is against that, they can't go out and oppose, because it is morally correct, it is legally correct and sound. So they couldn't do anything about it. But when this ST status came in, they got a reason to all, the Naga and the Kuki community to get together. And their insecurities are also justified. And the Meitei insecurities are also justified. So, that exercise, that churn that has to happen in the society to reach to a consensus was missing. And this is the reason why it happened.
So is a healing touch missing now, Rajat? now that you acknowledge that there are these insecurities on all sides, whatever your opinion may be of the High Court order, the question is, do we now need a healing touch? And that has to come from the political establishment.
I think, let the violence subside. 8 districts, I think, are under curfew. The situation is fast evolving. There are around 50 columns of army which has been deployed to take control of the situation. Let this, this current emotional, duration subside. Let the emotions settle down. And then the healing and the outreach has to be done. I suppose several people have lost their lives in this rioting. The CM and his entire cabinet, all the MLAs, public representatives will do everything that is needed to reach out to various communities and allay their fears. And that will happen once once this initial trigger of violence subsides.
Rajat, I was just telling this to Neha, that Manipur is a very distinct state. It's very different from Nagaland, Mizoram and Meghalaya. It has a strong Vaishnavite connect with the Indian mainland. What really surprises me is that despite so many trickle of events taking place, the administration was not able to gauge that the violence will unfurl in the capital itself, Rajat.
In fact, if I may add to that, Mr. Bhaumik, who we had earlier on the show, Kartikeya, has gone as far as to say the intelligence agencies were caught napping.
Rajat, I mean, so you have worked there. Isn't that disturbing?
See, having worked there, and I know how quickly can things go out of control. It's a very small state. And it's a pretty glued-in state. I mean, the number of WhatsApp groups, the number of local channels, local media that is, that exists. And Chura Chandpur has been simmering for the past 30-40 days, and it was largely contained. It's not like those initial sparks of this violence weren't there. They were there, and they were addressed in a timely manner. Just yesterday, we had the Honorable Vice President visit the state of Manipur to address the student community there. So, I mean, how you need to step in and stop a sudden escalation is something that that should have happened. It didn't happen. But Manipur has been a complex society that way. Your student unions, student communities are on tenterhooks always. So, organizing a quick, protest and all has always been the flavor.
Rajat, tell me one thing, I don't have that experience of Manipur. Generally when these flare-ups happen in UP and Bihar, you have these interfaith councils, you have those councils in rural areas where village leaders or prominent people in Mufassal and Thanas, they come out. Aren't those councils available as a mechanism to ensure that the violence does not take place in Manipur?
No, certainly. As I said, please, Kartikeya, you should understand that there are, Chura Chandpur is called the city of presidents because there are so many small communities, social communities, and everybody is a president of one community or the other.
Really?
So we used to laughingly call it as a city of presidents because there were so many such buffers, societal buffers that used to be in place. But what has happened is this sudden escalation. There was this sudden massive tribal protest under the ambit of ATSUM, the All Tribal Student Union, and the number of people who gathered against the Meitei community were just too huge. And then there was certain rioting in one certain pocket, and certain Meiteis lost lives. And then, till the time these buffers could come in and respond to the situation, it went out of control. And situation can get this bad, especially in societies which have had a long history of communal tension.
Do you think, Rajat, that it will have any bearing on the administration? Because most of these MLAs have only resigned from their autonomous bodies they were heading. They have not put in their papers as MLAs. And can you just take us through why these resignations took place? What is your political understanding? And do you feel, Rajat, that this drive against heroin cultivation will continue? Which I support personally.
And if I may add to that question, what, according to Rajat, is the thinking in the central party leadership about the question of leadership in Manipur? Because there are some MLAs who are demanding a change of leadership.
Well, I'm not the spokesperson of the party or the member of the party. I think the question should be directed to seniors of the BJP. But I can tell you one thing, all these individuals have, resigned from some of the other posts that they were given, and they have just claimed that they want expansion of the cabinet and inclusion as ministers and all. So those aspects I would give more credence to. I think more than any big leadership change, they were asking for certain ministerial positions. Manipur, even in the previous tenure, CM Biren Singh ji has been constantly under pressure to be more accommodative in terms of expanding cabinet, and there were similar sort of MLAs holding up in Delhi, several of them at that time, and it was a minority government. But the central leadership addressed the issue relatively well. Even this was a small blip. All the leaders came back, and the 100th Mann Ki Baat episode was celebrated in the state of Manipur with a lot of fanfare, and everybody came together. So I think politics is a game of ambition, so you cannot pinpoint anybody for being ambitious. Those things will continue, but there shouldn't be any sort of communal angle to it. What has happened is rather unfortunate. The shoot at sight, what I'm hearing from the ground is that the shoot at sight order had to be put in place because one of the BJP tribal MLAs from the city of Churachandpur was almost being lynched in the Imphal city, and that suddenly woke up the administration that MLAs who have security with them are also not safe. So army had to be deployed, and about the rest of the elaborate arrangements that have
can you please tell me how important or how big this issue is? Because last time I was discussing it with the panelists, Zo people are also demanding Zo Territorial Council, like Bodo Territorial Council. Is it a possibility? Can this happen in a small state like Manipur?
See, this is the challenge, that even the Naga community has so many small communities within the Naga umbrella. There is no such one tribe called Naga tribe, and there are many such tribes which all aggregated, put together, the Angami, the Aos, all of these put together, call themselves as Nagas. There are a lot of tribes which are still under the conflict whether they are Kuki or Naga. There is still that confusion there. And then a lot of sections of the Kuki tribes are expanding, because a lot of the Kuki Chin tribe, which borders Myanmar, are, because of the crackdown from the military junta there, they are crossing the river and coming into the Indian boundaries, Indian borders, and they are joining the Kuki community, and the Kuki base has been ever expanding. Another reason for Meitei tension is that we were 55% 10 years back. We are now under 50% population-wise, and this delta number is being filled by Kuki migrants who are essentially the Chin tribes coming from Myanmar and are illegal migrants into the state. So that tension is also there. So Zo community, Zo is part of the larger Mizo community, resides in Churachandpur, has been asking for an autonomous council. This is within the Kuki community. They are under the umbrella of Kuki. So complex layers are there. Kukis don't want to be divided. Zo people say that we are separate. Similarly, Meiteis, and there are just so many small communities that ask for more and more representation and rights, which complicates the whole thing.
How big do you think is the Myanmar angle to all of this? Because, the
narcotics?
Because the Meiteis have been saying that they are threatened, for example, by illegal immigrants from Myanmar and Bangladesh. There is this constant influx of refugees coming in from those countries, and I think Rajat referred to it as well. Is that really complicating the ground situation here in Manipur? We had a guest earlier, Subir Bhaumik, who said that, given that Myanmar has also been on the boil for several years now, India needs to realize that it actually has a stake in that country, and we need to be more proactive in dealing with a country like Myanmar. We talk about our Look East policy. Maybe it is time India sent a peace mission to Myanmar. That is a suggestion that came from one of our panelists, because this is part of the larger problem that we are facing in the northeast, according to him. What is your take on that, Rajat?
well, this is too big an issue. It's a geopolitical issue, and it has so many contours to it. It would take a whole show to sort of discuss China's inroads and into Myanmar and how close they are to Sanghaing area, etc. I mean, but the short story is that the Kuki community in general is just like the Naga community. The Eastern Naga community spreads all the way into Myanmar. Similarly, the Kuki community spreads all the way into Myanmar, and there is migration happening. We don't have a fenced border with Myanmar. The government has been looking at fencing. Now, fencing is a concern because the pillars are not marked, and pillars are not marked because right from I mean, I don't want to go back to Nehru, but back then there were certain confusions around certain areas which India gave away to Myanmar. Therefore, the pillars are not assigned yet. Where do you fence it? So these challenges remain, and this is the reason why there is constant influx of illegal migrants coming in from Myanmar, and there is no end to it.
I think that's a
this
very
is
interesting
also
point,
the
Rajat. That's a
insecurities
very
of
interesting point you have made. I'm caught unaware of the fact that the border is not demarcated. It's like a historical legacy.
Yeah, there are several pillars which this current government, central government, is really trying very hard to identify certain pillars and find those areas. And a lot of these pillars are inside the houses of tribal communities. They have these are the complex reasons why you do not have a clear area where two countries can come on consensus to.
Yeah, you are right, absolutely. I think in Nagaland, couple of areas, the photographs came. The Angan was on the Indian side, and the kitchen was on the Myanmar side, Rajat.
Yes, this is the reason. And if you have open borders, you will see migrant problem. The government cracked down on the Aadhaar issuing entities that sprung up on the borders. Suddenly, we saw so many Aadhaar centers coming up. And the big challenge was that they were issuing Aadhaar cards to all these illegal migrants and making them legal citizens, so to say. And they then came all the way, settled in Delhi, etc., etc. And then this whole problem ballooned because Aadhaar became the genesis for voting records. And then they got included as voters. And it just complicated the situation because then the Meitei further found themselves to be, their population going under 50%.
So are you saying that even, Rajat, are you saying that even Manipur is undergoing those issues which Assam has undergone? Migration, identity problem?
It's going to be even more serious.
Really?
Yeah, certainly. These are the reasons which make the whole state like a tinderbox. And if they are not addressed properly through proper legitimate legal ways, having all the communities come on board, it would be very hard. My simple point is, again, it's not like insecurities of just one community is justified and not the other communities. It's more complex than that. I'm just trying to break the complexities into easily understandable aspects. But I'm not trying to, underplay the insecurities of, say, the tribal communities here. They are too justified in certain aspects. But one has to handle it very carefully. Also, another thing that happened was the Manipur government unilaterally walked out of the Sioux arrangement with a lot of Kuki insurgent groups recently. They have been under Sioux talks, the surrender of operations talks with them for a decade or so. But they walked out of it because the Kuki community, with the support of certain cadres of these insurgent groups, was not stopping the poppy cultivation. You keep burning the poppy fields, you keep cutting the poppy plants, but how long do you do that? How much resources does a taxpayer have to spend on just cutting this? And it was funneling drugs into the rest of the country. And it became a major conduit, the major sort of link between drugs being peddled from the Golden Triangle all the way up till Punjab. And that became a serious issue.
Are you saying that Manipur is also paying a price? Manipur is paying a price for the strong anti-narcotic operations by both center and state?
Yes, certainly. And this is the reason why center is fully backing the state government when it comes to war on drugs. They are saying just go all out and we'll provide you all the possible support to navigate the situation, also provide alternative livelihoods to the farmers.
So let me ask you this in conclusion, Rajat. As we've been saying, this is a very complex issue that has multiple layers to it. There are insecurities on all sides, legitimate concerns that need to be addressed. But given the kind of violence we've seen in the last 2 days and the situation being extremely tense, I'll ask you this question as somebody who understands the state of Manipur very closely and well, who's worked with the Chief Minister. What do you think are some of the most important immediate measures that we need to take to bring the situation under control over the next 24 to 48 hours?
Peace prevails and all the different situations are and complications are resolved in an amicable manner. Also, this evening we had an emergent meeting with all the senior officials of the state government of Meghalaya to monitor the situation in Manipur, especially keeping in mind that a large number of students, almost close to 200 students from Meghalaya today are studying in Manipur, specifically in Imphal. We are monitoring the situation closely. We are in touch with the students of the different institutes. We are also making arrangements as a state government to try and evacuate our students at the earliest from there so that they can come back safely. We are making arrangements in terms of different transportation, especially air transportation, so that we can safely and quickly bring back our students back to our state. And we are also working on creating a permanent number, call center or a helpline number where the parents and the students can call on a 24-hour basis if they require any help or if any urgent matter is there. And I would like to urge the students studying in Manipur, students from the recent incidents that have been taking place in the state of Manipur have been very disturbing. And at this point in time, I would urge to all the citizens of Manipur state, all our brothers and sisters there, that we should maintain peace and harmony out there, and we should not go into any violent activities. I would like to appeal for peace, and I would like to urge that whatever the complications may be there, we should try and resolve those matters in an amicable manner.
All right, the Meghalaya Chief Minister there talking about the situation in Manipur, expressing his concern and anguish. A number of helpline numbers have also been issued to reach out to those who may be in need at a time when there is raging violence in different parts of Manipur, including capital Imphal. All right, we've been in conversation with Rajat Sethi, former advisor to the Chief Minister N. Biren Singh. Rajat, my last question to you. As I was trying to ask you earlier, what do you think are the immediate measures that we need to take to bring the situation under control over the next 24 hours to make sure the violence ends? And what, according to you, are the medium-term to long-term solutions to address the very complex issues of Manipur?
So there's no easy answer to it, but Manipur society is organized around a lot of small communities and small community leaders. The government is already, I'm sure they're reaching out to all of these community leaders to come in and have talks. Once the shoot at sight and 144 orders are out, that community outreach will have to start immediately to have temporary solution to the problem, and that is step number one. The more entangled problems around forest land surveys or the Sioux arrangement with Kuki insurgency group or the migration issue would require constant engagement with these with various communities, bringing them on consensus. Birenji has been doing this in the past as well. For 5 years, he used to always be on a firefighting mode, be it the Naga resolution, the Naga talks, which was around the Nagalim issue. He ensured that the Meitei community is gradually brought on board. Also the Kuki community is taken into confidence. So he has been doing the firefighting exercise for the past 5 years. So he's well adept at it, and I'm confident that he will be able to address this issue very soon.
Thank you, Raja. Thank you so much and making time for us to explain basic issues around Manipur, someone who has worked with the Chief Minister, Biren Singh. Thank you so much, Raja. But I think the bigger picture here is that finally a center push has taken place, a push from the center has taken place. The army is in place. Hercules 130 landed there in Imphal. I think and we hope that normalcy resumes in the state of Manipur. Neha.
Well, that is the hope all around. This is not just a crisis situation for the people of Manipur. This has caused concern all across the country. There are appeals for calm and peace that are coming in from everywhere. Our thoughts and prayers are currently with the people of Manipur, and we certainly hope that the situation can be brought under control at the earliest and the violence ends and all sides can really return to the dialogue table, because that really alone can be the only way forward. On that note, a big thank you to my colleague Kartikeya Sharma and the whole host of guests who've joined us during this 3-hour-long special broadcast on the ongoing situation in Manipur. Remember, even though we're wrapping up this show for now, this is a story we'll continue to track very closely here on News 9. But for now, it's goodbye from me and Kartikeya. Thanks for watching.